go. Oh, wait, are we recording?
We are here now live.
We didn't just tell everyone to go buy UPCs or anything, did we? Oh,
Yeah,
no.
go buy those for sure. Those need to be talked about more. I don't think people.
Oh, we better start this. This is getting off the rails real early.
Thank you both for taking the time to come on tonight. I do want to give you, Mertz, just a moment to maybe introduce yourself a little bit because you haven't. I don't think. Have you been on the channel before?
Yeah, I think I was in one of the call-in shows a while back, but just a brief appearance.
So I definitely got to know you better this past weekend in Denver, which was awesome. It was a pleasure talking to you. I think a number of people here do know who you are. Certainly, like a lot of the people who are the most engaged in our little corner. But for those who aren't, maybe just give a little just blurb on who you are. And Josh, maybe you as well, even though I know we had you on the channel not too long ago. Just real short, give yourself a plug, and then we'll jump into the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. First of all, thanks for having me, Jake. It was great to meet you in Denver. My name is Mertz. Well, that's my username online. My real name is Ben, but I go by Mertz Collectibles. I've been collecting for the last couple of years back into the hobby. Just very typical story. 99 kid, got back into it during the pandemic. Just went down a YouTube rabbit hole in about February of, I believe, 2021 and never looked back. Been deeply engaged in the hobby ever since. It just kind of, the best way I can describe it is it just unlocked like a nostalgic fire inside of me. And I've been deeply engaged ever since in the community, buying, selling, lurking in the chat rooms, and kind of culminated into going to the Denver Collecticon this past weekend, where I kind of introduced myself in person for the first time, kind of put myself out there, met some people in person, including yourself and Josh, and had an awesome time. So that's the quick story, and yeah, it's great to be here.
I will also say it was great meeting you. So it was great meeting both of you guys in Denver, because for the first time I got to meet Jake in person as well in Denver. But hi, everyone. I'm the Old Card Shop. My name is Josh, as you've probably picked up by now. I'm the guest of horror tonight, as some of the chat has so eloquently put it. I'm sorry, the guest of honor. My bad. But yeah, so anyway, I appreciate you having me on here. It's always nice. And let's see what kind of degeneracy and trouble we can get into tonight. See, I'm already trying to get myself into trouble. I opened up some Topps packs earlier on my stream, or I should say I opened up a Topps pack earlier on my stream, and now I'm looking at the rest of these Topps packs and I want to rip them all and grade them. So I'm going to need you guys, all of you, to talk me down. I know that's not a good idea, asking the chat and online people to tell you not to rip packs, but Topps, nobody wants Topps, right? So okay, anyway, Denver. No, we're not gonna talk about Topps. We're gonna have like negative 69 people in here if we ever talk about Topps. You know what I mean?
we can definitely talk about that. It's all good. Yeah, it was really a pleasure meeting both of you. Josh, I feel like I knew you really a bit already just from talking online, and what's great is that like everyone is exactly, I mean, part of what's nice about this long form content and having like 3-hour conversations with people is like you really get to know who they are, but it is a pleasure. It was a pleasure meeting you in person, and Mertz, it was great. And really, you and so many people I met, like just the nicest guys, like, and we all love this hobby, got into it really for the exact same reason, are just like huge collectors. So it's just such a pleasure, like being surrounded by cards at Collecticon and people who feel the exact same way we do. It's great. So, and I was very, I was, how to put it? Like, I wasn't a surprise necessarily, but I was very happy, and relieved is too strong a word also, but I was just happy that like every person who came, who vended with us, who like stayed in all the Airbnbs, who like everyone was just like a pleasure to be around. No weirdness, it just was a pleasure. So hopefully you guys both felt that way, but maybe I'm the bad one to be around. It's like, but hopefully you guys had a similar experience to me.
It literally, every person that I met there, I could have spent probably 2-3 hours saying that's how I felt about the weekend. I felt like I was being pulled in like 30 different directions every minute of the day, and not in a bad way. and it felt like every person that I did see and everyone I got to hang out with, I could have spent literally hours with just alone hanging out with, like, but then I was with a group of other people that I felt the same way about, like, and I think it was lucky for me, like, that we got to hang out like we did, Jake, because we didn't get to hang out really, but we sold, and that our section was next to each other, and so by just proximity, like, I felt like I got to hang out with you, Swami, and then Pokemon Classics, like, a lot, because our little section right there, we were tight.
Yeah.
We were like shoulder to shoulder, like.
Yeah, I don't feel like I got to spend enough time with a number of people at all, because the weekend was so busy and there were so many people there. And like at the last one, I went with really just like 4 or 5 people, and we were all together in the Airbnb the entire time. So like, for example, Ray, who I love, like, I didn't really get to like spend that much time with Ray, who's in the chat right now. And as you said, Josh, like the Collecticon, and I think for you and I was very similar. Like, I was talking to someone basically the entire time. There was someone at my booth buying a card, interested in a card the entire time. So I didn't talk to Dan or Nick or like the guy or like DNA or like any of the guys on sort of the other side, like, at all during the convention, which is amazing, because it just means the convention was like so busy and thriving. And we'll get into just, I mean, how great the turnout was, I thought, in Denver, and how amazing everyone did. I think all of the vendors who were in our section, like all of our friends did with that. But the downside of that was definitely like a little bit less of that like one-on-one intimate time that I maybe got, at the previous one. But that's like an amazing problem to happen, where there are too many cool people you want to hang out with and too much fun stuff to do that you like can't do everything you want. That's amazing. So.
Yeah. The entire convention blew my expectations away in every single way. So I'm like I'm a lurker. I'm in the chat rooms. I don't have a YouTube, presence, YouTube channel. I post a little bit on Instagram, but not my face. I'm just kind of a lurker in the different chats, and I didn't know what it was going to be like when I came. I didn't know if it was going to be a more cut off exclusive group. Wouldn't be invited here, wouldn't be included in the the dinners and the trade nights. But I went in kind of with low expectations, kind of just ready to accept. Okay, maybe I'll be hanging out in the hotel room a little bit by myself. I just didn't know what to expect. But everybody was so welcoming. It made an effort to include me in walking around the convention. Let me stand next to their tables while they were selling. Invited me to dinner. Invited me to the trade nights, and I was like blown away. Like seriously, like it meant a lot to me, and it was I can't even put it into words. So I was fully prepared to just kind of be on the low end of it, but it was the complete opposite experience. I feel like I got to spend quality time with everybody, and it was an incredible experience, and I'm so happy I put myself out there, because it did take a little bit of kind of a little bit of nervous going in there, just to meet some people that watch on YouTube and just in that way. So had a little bit of nerves going into it, but I'm so glad that I put myself out there, because it was just like an incredibly rewarding experience, and it reinvigorated my collecting passion. That's not hyperbole. Like, it was an incredible experience for me.
That is awesome. And like, I really I'm so glad you shared that message and that you had that experience. I sensed that you and a number of other people had that experience. I did also talk to people who felt like they were too nervous, who had some social anxiety. Some people privately told me that they were they didn't know how to like come up to us or how to like go out to dinner or do these types of things. Obviously, it's a logistical nightmare for 55 people to go to dinner together. So that did not happen. Like, there are going to be moments where like groups are going to break off, like people are going to do different things, but like everyone is like very inclusive, and everyone really wants to try to make an effort. So like everyone has a place to go, people to be with, right? That type of thing. Like we care about, fellow collectors, and we just love this stuff and want everyone to have a good time. And so all I can encourage, and hopefully hearing Mert say that is like, please come, like, please make that effort. And there's so many cool people that like, you can you'll make 3, 4, 5 friends, hopefully, if you come to some of them, and then you guys together will get an Airbnb, and we also we want to have events or moments where like 50 or 100 people can all hang out. Thank you to Swami. Shout out to Swami, who had 30 or 40 of us over to his house one night.
Swami, I owe you one, buddy.
Yes.
I owe you one, and I appreciate you and everyone who is there. Thank you all for being there and being awesome. I hope we didn't destroy. I think we did. I don't know. I'm sure the house was destroyed at the end of
it. It wasn't too bad. And shout out to my girlfriend, Sarah, who might be watching this. She cleaned. She did the majority of the cleaning of the house while we were all at Collecticon the next day, including cleaning up some glass that I broke. And as a drunk idiot, I tried to clean it up the night before. And she was like, someone tried to clean this up. That's how badly
it was right after the Hagrid got pulled in Harry Potter is what it was. I remember everyone was so excited about the Hagrid, and it was like it just kind of got pushed off. And I remember the moment. By the way, we pulled the Ghost Rare Hagrid that night and out of the Harry Potter base set box. How crazy is that? So yeah, I would say very much so that if Orlando happens, which it will, maybe it would be a really cool idea to find a big space. I mean, the hotel lobby has been very much so a good default. Sunday night, the hotel lobby was cracking. It was very much so. I don't think that hotel lobby has seen a better Sunday night than it had. They were selling out. It looked like they had to kick us out. It felt like at the end of it, but yeah, there were a lot of people, and I think that was for Saturday too. You could just go downstairs, even if you didn't have prior engagements or know anyone at the main event. I know there was a sanctioned trade night at another hotel, but just at the main hotel where the event was being sponsored by. That was where a lot of people were kind of hanging out too. So I think that if anyone's out there kind of watching and I don't want to go because I don't have an established group of friends. I'm not a YouTuber who when I walk up to someone, they're going to know me already. I don't think anyone really knew me already per se, except for my friends that I already knew. But even if you don't know anyone, I remember my first time in Long Beach going to Collecticon, and I didn't know hardly as many people either. Very much so similar experience. You just go down to the hotel lobby, you're going to see some nerds about with their slab boxes or their binders. I mean, trust me, when you're in these nice hotels, you can tell the people who are there for Collecticon and the people who are there for staying on their layover or for their honeymoon or whatever. You'll definitely be able to find your kind if you go to Collecticon. That's what I would say.
And I think with anything, it's friendships take a little while to build. And so of course, if you've never interacted with any of us, I get the anxiety of I'm going to be, but just start hanging out with us here, start coming on the live stream, start coming to conventions, and understand that that'll build over time. The people that I'm closest with in the hobby, I've had thousands and thousands, right, of conversations or hours with them. And I think to put a bow on it, people are so welcoming that those relationships can be built a lot quicker than probably in most things. And people even if they don't really know you, if they just see that you're a nice person and you enjoy the same sort of thing, they'll go out of their way to kind of include you in things and encourage that. And part of that, I was talking about it with people this week, and part of it I credit to just Pokemon. I just think it's not a lot of really douchey people love cute, adorable animals and want to rediscover their child. It's just not something people are not here to be dicks and to hurt each other. Most people are here to, just as Mert said to start this night, for that sort of nostalgia, that connection. Pokemon meant something to them. It was this feel-goody thing that they engaged as a kid. And now as an adult, it we're doing that as adults together, and it just puts people in a really good headspace, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't recommend it more. If you're on the fence, if you've got maybe a little bit of social anxiety, or it can be tough. I definitely had to kind of force myself in at the beginning, just hey, I'm introduce myself to everybody, and kind of there was that awkward beginning, but everybody was so. It was incredible. Everybody was so welcome. And I feel like I got to spend some quality time with a lot of people, both you Jake and you Josh, as well as like countless other people. Like it wasn't just a 5 minute, hey, let me look at your booth real quick and keep it moving. Like I got to spend, like I ate dinner with PK and in classics. Like they invited me to sit down, and that was just, they were incredibly welcoming and talked with me there. I spent like an hour talking to Zach Gemmett at one of the trade nights, and I was just like, I can't believe this guy's giving me the time of day, let alone like really engaging with me. Like and I didn't get the sense that people were like annoyed and like, oh, here's this guy who's new and I just kind of want to be nice. Like people were like engaging with me and like asking me questions about myself, wanting to look through my binder, and it was just like, it was like I'm almost like stunned. I'm like still kind of riding on like a high of just that whole week, and it just really like invigorated me. It was like a 10 out of 10. Like it like changed everything, and it like really just like reinvigorated me. So I cannot recommend going to a live in-person event more for anybody who's out there on the fence. Like 10 out of 10.
And this is the stuff that just makes the hobby even better. It's like, yes, I already by myself in a room love collecting these cards, right? And appreciate doing this sort of stuff. Like, for 3 years I just did that, and it was great. But it's like now I can like do that, love that, and have a bunch of these like nice social interactions and larger things. So it just adds a whole great dimension to the hobby. So
I think that that sort of mentality is sort of a nature. It's coming out of most of us getting back into the hobby before the pandemic, basically, and then being forced to go through the pandemic and interact with the hobby in that particular way, which, to be 100% frank with you, is never the way that I interacted with the hobby before. Like, I was a local game store run. I literally went to, when my parents would move, I had parents in different, my parents split up when I was young. So I had parents that lived in different parts of the country. Whenever one of them would move, like my whole life would basically move. So I would have to go to a new town, and I would use local game stores as like the thing that stayed the same. I could always go to a local game store and find the nerds in that local town and find my tribe, so to speak. And so like that was always the way I interacted with the hobby, is like in person, going to the local game stores, because I was a player. I got out of it like a little bit later on in life when I had to get my career going and all that kind of stuff, and I fell away from my hobbies. That sometimes happens with things. But like after I've come back to it, I was also interacting with the hobby. I would go to game stores and stuff in like 2019. I tried to go to my local, but there weren't as many, admittedly, back then, because it wasn't as booming at the time. So it wasn't as like good to have a game store. The ones that were there for many years, and I always respected them, and I always patronized them as well. But at the same time, there weren't as many of them at that time period. So like then when the pandemic happened, we really could only interact with the hobby in a very solo, sort of like online, very, I don't want to say selfish, but very much so like on our own sort of way. And it makes it feel like that's the only way that you can like interact with the hobby, but it's not the case. And now like we have these conventions again, and like I never used to go to conventions. That wasn't the way that I interacted with the hobby. Like now it's becoming more of a way, and I love that way of interacting with it. But like that, it's reminiscent of me, of like people for the first time. It's like they're going to their game store, they're going to out, and they're meeting people again and interacting with the hobby in the way that I definitely, I feel like it used to be. So it's like now I'm very bullish on like the future of the hobby, even though like, sometimes it feels like, oh, things are kind of going down or stagnant, or people have gotten burned and left the hobby compared to like 2 years ago. It feels like the people that are here now are like the right people, and like people getting into it now are getting into it for more of the right reasons. So like very bullish lately, very bullish on the future of the hobby lately, definitely, just to say the least.
I think a lot of the conversations, or sometimes the conversations online, can be a lot about like drama or about like money. And when it's like just about drama or like market analysis, like it can lose part that part of just like that third thing, which is actually the pillar of the hobby, which is like, I show you a Pokemon card, you are like, oh my God, I want that card, or like that card's amazing, or like, it, and that it's not.
We're going to open one of these on stream today, and you guys are going to tell me whether or not it's going to be worth it to grade these dang things, and chat's going to tell me if Tops is garbage or not, because I think there's some people in the chat who are going to try to make me degen out on that. But yes, the hobby is more than just the money, for sure. It's about the fun. Yeah, you talked me into it, Jake. You're supposed to talk me out of it. What the hell, man? You were literally. I said, talk me out of it, and
Okay.
and then okay.
It's
God,
all about money. The hobby is entirely about money. Don't open the packs. Is that
yeah,
fair?
you're probably right. I'll probably just lose money if I open a Topps pack. So chat. Should we do one of these? Like, I don't know. You guys want to break it up a little bit and do a little opening? Is this? Can I do an opening
Rip
right
it.
now?
Are we watching a gambling addict in person right now?
I don't
CV,
gamble. I
top
usually
top
make other
series
people
too.
I'm usually facilitating the gambling. Okay, I don't do the gambling myself. I'm the house.
Right.
So
Let's
this
do
is
it.
me. This is how much confidence I have in Topps. Is that I'm willing to say, well, I just want to rip it.
All right, let's kick
All
the night
right.
off with a little opening.
This is series 2, right?
No, this is series 1. And
Okay.
so here's some interesting little fun facts, chat. These packs came out of this 10, which we just ripped just previous to this stream. We were on a live whatnot stream, and someone ripped one of these packs. Okay, the card that came out of this pack was so crispy clean. It was so crispy clean. This is gonna get like a BGS 995, and if it gets a 10, bless. It's gorgeous. The corners are clean, but it's on the very outside of the pack. So the hit is going to be like right here. Usually with Topps packs, the issue with them is the hit is in the middle of the pack and it bricks. It sits and it peels because the card in front of it sticks to it. These were in a 10, like a blister, basically, just lovingly stored in this little blister for 30 plus years, or 25 plus years. And after opening one pack on my stream for somebody, it's like too nice, and the other cards are great. I feel like it's worth opening a couple more. So we're gonna open one live because why not, right? We're with friends, and it sounds like a good idea.
Yes.
So we're pulling the foil Zard.
Foil Zard would be good, but honestly, I'm happy with anything. But the nice thing is with these ones is the regular cards are all like the original Kanto, so you can kind of pull some pretty nice even without the hit. So the hit's going to be on the first one. I'm just going to show it right away. Let's see what we got. Primate. Right? So it's nice that's on the front, though. So
I kind of like Primate, to be honest. I just
cool.
feel like there's not a single, like I've heard Jake say it before, not a single Gen 1 Pokemon that I don't like.
Bulbasaur. Yep. All right. Bulba. We like that.
Okay.
We like Bulba. That's good. Starters are good. Looking nice, too. All right.
So tell us a little bit about these. Do these brick up? What are the general prices? Give us a little bit of your experience with these.
So typically speaking, these cards are really, really bad condition. They come out of the pack like bricking super hard. Wow, these are actually really nice. So they're coming off super clean, not sticking really at all. Rattata. I'm sorry, I just don't want to scratch off the surface, so I'm trying to be careful and not slide them. That's why I'm sort of opening them this way. Okay, this one did stick. So the back of the Rattata, Pharaoh. These were the very first series of Topps cards, and they basically made first half of the first Kanto Pokemon were in Series 1. The second half, or it's actually like the first third were in Series 1. The second half were in Series 2. Oh, Machamp. That one's good. The second half second third were in Series 2, and then Tentacool. Okay. All right. This is bad because we're going to open another one, chat. Okay. This is bad.
Money?
These are probably usually about $20 or $30 a pack, but it's never worth opening these. I would almost never, ever recommend doing what I'm doing right now because usually they do not come out of the pack looking good at all, but these are actually looking real nice. Let me at least...
Did we make money or...
Yeah, did we make money?
$20 a pack. What do you think? $20 a pack, and do you think that if we graded maybe a 9 or a 10 on just the hollows...
I mean, go CGC 10, $150, 120.
CGC 10 Primate, $200.
Chat, do we like CGC better or do we like PSA? They're basically the same price, and CGC is actually pretty easy to grade with Topps. They're pretty soft on them. What do we like better? Oh, that Primate's really nice, though. That's for sure getting sent. That's 10. If it's not off center, that's super nice. Yeah, we're opening another one, chat. Okay, this has turned into pure degeneracy at this point. But The thing about tops is usually with tops the conditions are just terrible, and the fact that they sometimes don't come out like. All right, I guess we're gonna have tops at our booth here, chat. We're gonna have tops at our booth in Orlando. You guys are gonna see the hit before me, so we are gonna open it and show it first because why not, right? What do we get?
Okay.
Okay, Gloom. All right,
Uh-huh.
all right, Gloom. We want starters though. You can still pull a Charizard non-hollow. Are you familiar with tops at all, Jake? I know you like obscure things, so these ones are a little bit more shifted. So
My experience with Top, so I have a binder set, and I have a couple of my favorite Pokemon in PSA graded, and that's it. So it's not a major, but I like it.
Another of the same Bulbasaur and Ivysaur. So you don't have like any graded tops or anything? You're not into...
Just a few. And then for the Chrome, I have a little bit more, but not that much. Because some of the patterns I really like on the Chrome.
Is this the same pack? Rattata, Fearow?
It's the same exact order. So commonly with tops, the printing is... okay, there's something different. Jesse.
Okay. Yeah, tops is super nostalgic. Even though, you know, I don't personally collect it, but definitely nostalgic to look at. Ooh, Meowth.
What I've never owned is any of those first appearance cards, not even a single one. The ghost ones.
First appearance Lugia, rookie card. Geodude.
And I know those are the some people are super, super into those.
Yeah, I actually sold a first appearance Ladybug. It was one of the first cards I sold at the event. The gentleman who bought it from me he said he wanted to own the largest percentage of first appearances in the world. And he said there was like 90 something in the pop and he had 12 of them. And he had a stack like that big of all graded first appearances. So he came by to try to get my Slow King because I had a Slow King 9 first appearance that he had his eye on. He knew me from eBay already. He saw this Slow King. He's like, "Oh, are you the guy on eBay?" I was like, "Yeah, that's me." He's like, "Yeah, I thought so because these don't come up much." I was like, "I know, it's a population 4. I'm pretty sure it doesn't come up that often." He's like, "Yeah, I kind of want it. I'm going to walk around a little bit. I'm probably going to come back at the end of the day and buy it." He came back at the end of the day with a Gold Star Rayquaza, and he's like, "Dude, I'm so sorry. I spent my money on this Gold Star Rayquaza." I was like, "Dude, don't be sorry. That's a great card." I was like, "Whatever you're happy with, man. That's cool. You know, this I'll have it at least for, you know, if you do want it, because those first appearances are super cool, but they are very niche. Like they don't move quickly. Like I sold the Ladybug to him. He bought a PSA 8 Ladybug, but significantly better price than a PSA 9. Condition rarity is a thing with those things.
Yeah, I'm not super locked in on the first appearance market there.
I don't know if anyone's really locked in on any of
this guy is probably pretty locked in.
You're pretty locked into the first appearance market there.
More into the Magi market, I would say. Like that's more my forte. That's where my comfort zone is at. Though I am very comfortable with those first appearance topses. I mean, here's what I'm comfortable. When I see a first appearance like come up, I usually buy it. If it's an auction, I will 99.9% guarantee you it will go under the value it should if it goes in auction. And for the most part, if you're going to be bidding on those first appearances, you're probably bidding against me. I will say that. Not many get slipped by these two eyes. These Uchiha eyes. They don't miss those first appearance ghost rares.
I think they're pretty cool. They're pretty unique.
They're very cool. Like I mean, not to shill the thing that I have, that I own, that I sell all the time, that I go after, but I think they're very cool. I mean, that's the thing about plays in Pokemon. Like, it's really not rocket science. To be honest, I'm not sitting here like examining charts and spreadsheets and things. I'm literally just making plays on the things that I think are really cool that I personally like myself. So like, it took me until I was like 30 years old to really realize that like the things that I liked weren't that special. Like the things I like other people like them too. And like just to capitalize on that. So I just kind of, that's been my strategy for a while. And in the case of who asked if we made money, baby, these things, if a couple of them don't 10, I would be damned. These are crispy. I think we are going to do well on these. Might have to open another one. I don't think selling these is the play. I think opening these is the play.
Just ripping them?
Just ripping and grading. Like, I mean,
Plus EV.
Tops is so undervalued, chat. They're just so undervalued.
Yeah, I mean, there are packs. I mean, even like the Harry Potter and the DBZ stuff that we were opening at Collecticon too. Like, if you get 9s and 10s out of those things, they're way positive EV. It's just hard to get. It can be hard to get even that, and then it's the time it takes to grade it, and then how deep the market is, how many people would actually buy it. It's that type of thing.
Harry Potter was definitely a fun rip.
I'm going to grade this, the Pharaoh, but
Okay. So yeah, if anyone has any questions tonight, I mean, we're literally just hanging out. Josh is going to keep opening packs. Yeah,
please stop me. Somebody stop me. Like, somebody tell me you need to stop opening these top packs. Here's the thing. I'm going to stop opening these ones, and we're going to open Series 2 next. Because I also got a Series 2 10 at the Collecticon, and I need to see what the situation, what the sitch is like what the color of the logo is. We need to see where the hit is in the pack. We want to see what the condition's like. I want to see what it was packed like. I also want to see how the box topper was on that box. Because I am going to sell some of those packs on my channel. Yeah. But I'm not going to sell the whole box. And so I need to open it up. So we might as well do that while we're live on video. We can talk about the different series. The one that we just opened with the Bulbasaur box topper is a Series 1. And speaking of the color of the backs, what we're talking about here. Whoops. Topps logo. See where the Topps logo to the left of where my finger is at, the little black Topps logo. Mm-hmm. Some Topps cards will have a different color logo there. That color logo is representative of which print that the actual Topps cards were. Because if you don't have the foil, if you don't have the actual foil pattern to tell you what print it is, you can see how that has like a starburst or almost like a ray. See how the rays are coming outward? There are some Topps cards that have a flat foil, like a flat silver foil without those rays. There are some that have a rainbow foil without those rays. There are some that have a flat foil with little tiny starburst type looking things on them. There's some that have a literal flame design all over the design, like little tiny flames all over, textured flames. Those will all be denounced by the color of that Topps logo. There's green, red, blue, black. And depending on the foil and depending on the print run, they can have different variations. So that's why Rusty is spending all of his hard-earned money on Topps cards, is because there's literally 69 variations of just Charmander and Charmeleon and Charizard from Series 1. We're just talking Series 1. Now and that's this one right here. You know what the silly thing is? See how that blue logo right there is blue on the front? The cards inside of it are black. See where my finger is at? It's black. That's why we have to open one pack up to test it out of every single one of these that we get. Because you would think that all of the 10s had the same things in them. No, that would make sense. They probably had 420 different factories making all of these Topps cards all over the United States, all over China and Thailand and Brazil and wherever else they were printing these cards at. And they probably printed them all differently. From my experience opening them, every pack is different. Like you guys saw in the packs before, we had the same cards duplicated. Except for a few. It was like they were track printing and they forgot to switch the track printer. And that was just from the same 10s. So it's always worth opening one up to see how they are. So we are going to open that other 10. But, I'm actually very happy with the conditions of these cards. Yeah, basic. You and I, man, we would probably talk tops all night long. I've been into tops for a long time. I actually do like tops a lot, even though I'm just shilling it right now, like shamelessly. I legitimately do like it. Like, I hope we can pull a Charizard. There's a
What's your
Charizard in Series 2. The clear cards
yeah?
are so cool. Like,
I like
there's a
those.
Mewtwo,
I have a few of those. Yeah, I like
yeah, the
those.
Flying Pikachu, which is the coolest one. The Flying Pikachu is so cool.
Yeah, I like that.
Um, the Charizard is nice. Obviously, everyone loves Charizard, right? So there's that.
What do you think? What do you think, Mertz, about these tops cards? What's your opinion?
I'm not into them, to be totally honest with you. Great show there, Josh, but you haven't sold me yet. They are nostalgic just to look at, and but I would probably never purchase them, and I have no interest in them, to be totally honest with you.
I think for me, like it's pretty far down the list. It's on like I like them. It's like I would rather own them than not. But it's like I have so many things, particularly if I was like newer in the hobby right now, there would be so much that I'd be wanting to get over going off to those. Now, I do think some people are just like there isn't that much top stuff, and so maybe I'll just be like a tops collector. Like I've talked to some of those people as much, versus the rest of like the TCG. It's like it's easier to just go after that stuff and some of like the non-TCG Japanese. For me, like the cards I connect with by far are the TCG cards. And then second to that, I like the like 1997, card ass, the Ken Sugimori set, and I like as you said before, I like a lot of the Meiji sets. Some really beautiful, interesting things there that just appeals to me a little more because they're of the age of them. They were sort of before the English sets ever came out, and a little bit more interesting and playful. A lot of the arts and the concepts to me, and the hollow patterns than tops. Although tops Chrome, I do think some of the hollow patterns are cool, and the time period's cool. It's from it's from the era of the beginning of Pokemon in English, so I think they're cool.
Yeah, I like that card ass exclusive Ken Sugimori artwork. So that's probably my favorite, non TCG thing. And then just the card ass, like the release method was cool with the vending, like how they came out of vending machines, and just like that. That's a cool tie-in. But I think you said it perfectly. Like there's just so much that I'd rather, or not that I'd rather. I guess I don't want to crap on it too much, but a lot of other things that I'll be getting to before I make it down to the tops rabbit hole.
Yeah. For me, it's Versus Series, vending, and that 97 card S set are probably my three favorite sets. And then maybe I'll throw in Skyridge. And when I say sets top to bottom, where like the commons and uncommon, like every card is just like phenomenal, or almost every card. Oh boy, here we go.
Yeah, I love vending. Vending's here we go. Okay.
And then EXT
Seal's broken.
Has a bunch. I love some of those dark Pokemon, like even not the key ones in the set. Like some of them are just gorgeous.
Just like a gorgeous set. I think I agree with everything you said. I love vending. Swami put us all onto the Versus series. I don't know if any of you saw the presentation that he made, but I actually bought a Versus series card from Swami. That Gyarados is like a gorgeous artwork. So
yeah.
What we got here?
Countless commons and uncommons that are gorgeous. That's cool.
Box toppers, baby. Box toppers. That's what we love about these tins. So all these tins come with a different box topper. I have a sleeve. Just a moment.
Big old box topper sleeve.
Unfortunately, they do have little tiny dings sometimes on the corners because of how they put them in the tin. They didn't put them into like a little slot in like they do in today's Pokemon. They just kind of throw them in the top of the tin.
A really nice way for that Mertz and I are saying it sucks.
But
very nice, yeah.
The box toppers are probably my favorite thing about them. Okay, so now Series 2. Series 2. Different pack art. This is the series that they introduced inserts. So you could actually get embossed cards. You could get the clear cards, the acetate cards. Or not acetate. I think they're just like clear cards. And then you could also pull foils like you could in Series 1. Really, we're just going to open one of these packs, though. We're just going to open one. So what pack art should we use? We have the Jesse and James, which is pretty cool. We have Pikachu and Ash. Pretty cute. Pretty cute.
Yeah, I mean, that one's great.
Ash, classic Ash. I like that one. I think that one's pretty cool. Another classic Ash.
Which one are you feeling?
Another. So those are the three. Those are all three. And then another. We have the most of the classic Ash with his hat on backwards. So I think that's what I'm feeling.
Chat, which one should we open?
Just rip that one. Just hoping we get a little bit better than a Gloom and a Primeape. So I'm rooting for you here.
Team Rocket. All right.
Okay.
Team Rocket.
We're only opening one of these, chat, unless it's like minty like the other box was. The only reason we went degenerate status on the other one, we're just authenticating this one. Okay, that's all we're doing. We're just authenticating so that when someone else opens it on my channel, I can at least know where the hit's going to be, and I can tell them if it's going to be minty or not. I don't want someone to like open it and then get a damaged card and then feel bad, you know? That's literally all we're doing this for.
What an honest seller. Just looking out for your customers.
Right. We'll call it that. We'll call it that. My gambling habits. We'll call it an honest seller. Sure. Okay, so maybe. Okay, so this one, the hit is not on the front like the last one was, unless this one on the back was. But so we're going in this raw, chat. We're going in it live.
All right, let's do it.
Pikachu. That's cool. One of the TV character cards.
It's cute.
Okay, that's nice. I like that scene. That's a cool scene. Okay, some waifus. Some upside down waifus. Misty's sisters.
Okay. 1999 waifus.
Yeah. Oh, there's
Stock.
another one. There's Sabrina. Emo waifu for you. It always sells for more if it's a waifu. That's what I've learned. There's a Voltorb waifu. Where's that? Ooh, hello. Yo. Squirtle Squad. Squirtle Squad? That's the holo.
Okay.
I'm
that the
not
sunglasses
mad.
Squirtle? I like it.
It didn't stick. It did not stick to the card in front of it. It looks minty as all hell.
It's a nice card.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. We are going to start doing some questions from chat.
Yes. Stop me. Oh, and then Charmander. That's an insert.
Oh, there's another card.
That's an insert.
Oh, that's cool. I don't even know that card.
We made money on this pack, chat. We made money on this pack. In an Onyx. We made money.
All right,
we're good.
If people want to start putting their questions in chat, go for it. I'm just going to start with the first one, and then we'll get through. I saw a few that were asked. What do you make of the recent Japanese World promo sales? They all stonked. So have either of you guys been following these cards?
No, I wasn't aware that the Japanese World's promos were stonking more than in other languages.
John, let us know below, and we'll get to it later. Like what the prices are now. What have you seen? I do think that for me, the Japanese ones have been underrated for a while as compared to the English just stamped ones. Because I think for me as a collector, I'm always trying to I want like the best of sort of everything, but like one of everything. And because on the English side, I have like lots of options, but on the Japanese side, I didn't. I always liked those. In terms of like, I've heard a lot of different conversation on how many of each there are and all sorts of things, and I'm not going to speculate on it right now. But just for that very fact, and I think they're quite good looking in Japanese. So, but let us know what you've been seeing. I had some come up to my booth in Collecticon, people trying to sell me some, people trying to buy some, and definitely. I'm a bit different than the market still on those. There are some cards that I think are way too expensive, and there's some that I don't think are expensive enough. So it's sort of an interesting market. I think it's a very, very underdeveloped market. It's a still very small niche market. I think it's grown quite a lot since this past Worlds and all the content made around this past Worlds and people being exposed to them and starting to collect them more. That's really reflected in prices on the majority of these are either setting records now or, fairly high prices or competitively high prices as compared to a lot of the rest of the hobby. So, That's all I have to say on those. Anything to add on Worlds promos? And maybe John will give us some examples later on.
Most of them are trainer cards, right? Like there's very few that are actually Pokemon. Like a couple of them are full art Pikachus, which are pretty cool. Like, so most of them are trainers, correct?
So there are two different separate things. There's the Worlds promos, which are trainers, and then there's the Pikachu trophy cards, which are like the full arts or the half arts, that are the ones that have historically held the highest price and been considered sort of the trophy card, with the Worlds promos given out as sort of a lesser card. Some of those Worlds promos, though, have like a champion stamp or finalist stamp on them, which would be the same card that was given with the trophy Pikachu. You know, the 1 for first place, 2 for second place, 3rd for third place, and 4th for, well, 3rd and 4th have the same. But yeah. What do you think, Mertz?
Yeah, the thing that jumps out to me about Worlds promos is I hope they change the art from the full art Pikas. It's been the same art for a number of years now, and I know we're all interested to see when that's going to change. I just think that's kind of stale. I don't know why they're continuing to do that. That's the first thing that jumps out. And then there were a lot of people coming up to your booth at Collect-A-Con, I remember, and they were trying to do trades and talk to you about your Worlds stamped cards, and you were valuing different ones at different amounts, like you said. So just thought that was interesting, like the couple of the quarterfinalists that you have that you were valuing highly. But yeah, that's my main takeaway is I wish they would change the art on the trophies.
Like from a market financial perspective, I think there's still a ton of potential, but there's also a lot of risk. And it just goes to show some things I value quite a bit lower than other people, some things I value higher. And of course, I could be right, they could be right, we both could be wrong in terms of the long run. It's a speculative sort of thing. I really like the cards. I think, with everything, it's important. And to Josh's point, to Old Card Shop's point, earlier on, like, what you like is a really good way of kind of figuring out likely where demand is going to be. Be careful, collecting things you don't like, even if they're rare. I think in general is good advice, both from a market standpoint and then first and foremost from a collector enjoyment perspective.
I personally think the market way overvalues those cards, and trophy cards in general, I feel, are very overvalued. And I think they've been just overblown, and it's not the market for me. Like, certainly not. Like, zero interest whatsoever. Like, the only interest I have in it is to literally buy and sell to someone else. I would never have like interest just for me. But that's like not speaking on, like, I'm not trying to yuck anyone's yum, to go back to one of the channel's favorite sayings, but it's not that. It's just not for me. That's all. Like, you're looking at a guy who, like, I like sealed product and I like PSA 1s, which are like two really weird things. And I'm not going to sit here and say that's like either of them are good options, but that's just what I like. So just trophy cards are, to me, it's just like a really expensive trainer card that like everybody thinks is like really expensive. And then I look at it, I'm like, I kind of like these alternate arts, like the art a lot better, like, and they're $25 to $50. I don't know. That's the way I see those things, I guess.
Yeah, I think that it's about history and about rarity, and every person is sort of moved by that in a different way. So some people, I think, collect or find value more purely in nostalgia or something that they opened as a kid. Some people find value in art that they really appreciate, or a specific artist, or a specific Pokemon that they really go after. And then some people find or appreciate sort of rarity in history. I think a lot of us appreciate all of those things, right? And so it's like, but some of us don't at all appreciate the sort of historic, and you may not at all, like Josh, like appreciate or get anything from sort of the rarity or sort of the historicalness of it, or you may not feel the type of historicalness those things are you care about. And then it's sort of like, absolutely. I mean, it's a big hobby, and everyone's going to sort of have their own thing. I do think that is all the demand side, and then you have sort of the supply side. And so just objectively, the rarer an item is, the less demand you need, obviously, for prices to be really high. But there's sort of like, does something being rare itself increase demand for it or make it a cool item? For some people it will, for some people it won't.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think a lot of us got brought back in with nostalgia, and then are kept here by the art combination, art nostalgia, and then for me it's the history, and I really like the unique releases and the special releases. So I think it's a combination of them all.
Yeah, I mean, there's cards that I collect purely for art. There's cards that I collect purely for nostalgia. There's cards that I collect purely for sort of rarity or history. And the cards I like the best have them all, or hit all of those things with me, or as many of them as possible. So
Absolutely. I think I see a lot of people asking some Moonbryon questions in the chat.
Moonbryon going. All right. Let's see what we got here.
Is it over 1,000 yet?
Yes, I think there's one. Basic said there's one going for auction right now. It's at 1,200 and it's not over yet. There was a kid at one of the trade nights, and I say kid because he was a literal kid. He was like 12 years old, and he had his dad with him, and he had a Black Label Moonbryon, and he had solid offers for like 6K, and he was like going back and forth with whether he should take a 7K offer that he had on the table, and I was just like, you got to sell it. Like you just have to. Like in my opinion, like
Ash.
So
That was Ash.
I'm just going to go in order with a couple of questions, but we'll definitely get to them
Whatnot
and talk about it. If there are questions down there, if that's cool with you guys.
Yeah.
Just Topps because they're cheaper than base set. I think that Topps initially did get popular. People started going to that because WotC vintage in general was so expensive. They went to Topps. They developed a relationship with Topps. Frankly, that's exactly what started it in the beginning. When we were kids, these packs were like $2 and the WotC stuff was like $5. Depending on where you were, I'm sure it's different, but
I think spent $60. It was 3 packs that I ripped. That was $60. Do you guys think that was like a $60 experience? Do you think I value it at $60? Like I personally feel like that was far more. I sell packs on my channel, like base set packs for like $350 to $400 for like a base set pack that someone will maybe rip and literally brick on. Even if they got like a Clefairy, like a hollow, and it was like a Hitmonchan or something, and it gets a 9. Literally, you're bricking. That's $300, $400. You're not going to recoup your value. Oh, what happens if you get a Pikachu, a Charmander, and a Bulbasaur? You might break even, maybe. Like, I feel like I can definitely do better than breaking even if I wanted to by grading these out and stuff. So like from a financial perspective, I like that. But like just as a purely like $60, it's $20 a pack. Like it's not a matter of being like, it's just like what the hell? It's $20. So I don't know. That's up. So yes, it is definitely because it's like cheaper. It makes it more appealing to rip. But I don't think it like takes away from the enjoyment. Like trust me, that $400. I'm not enjoying it anymore because it costs more, especially not after the fact,
I mean, for me, it adds enjoyment. Like I love, as inexpensive as possible of a pack as I can get, but also I really enjoy opening. So, I mean, for me, like the Harry Potter stuff is really at the top of my mind because I like every card art in there. I open it for like $15, $20. I could potentially get a card that could be worth 1,000 or something if I graded it and hit the exact right card. It's exciting because there aren't very many graded. I really like Harry Potter, so it's like for me, like that has really good value because it hits a lot of those things. But there are gonna be people who like don't care about Harry Potter, have no relationship to those who that's worthless. So it really depends. I think there'd be people out there who would say, I don't care at all about any of those cards from that Topps pack. And then people who would say they really like it and enjoy it and it's good value for 20, just like the Harry Potter or like DBZ or whatever it would be.
Yeah, I'm seeing the chat right now. The kid with the Moonbryon, by the way, you guys, that's Esh Ketchum. That's that kid who's always on Leonhardt's channel. I don't know if you know who that kid is.
He was a nice kid, and his dad was there. Yeah, I was
he's a nice
convince
kid.
him.
He's 14 or something. He's like a child, and he has like millions of dollars. I'm sure his parents are like the richest people in the world. He's always like flexing the hardest. He came to the chat. He came to my booth, and he like threw the Black Label Moonbryon. Jake, do you remember when I looked back at you and I said, how I was like, is there ever a point where I'll care about black labels in this hobby?
yeah.
You remember that when I leave, that was right after that kid walked by and threw it on the table like it was supposed to impress me. And so yeah, that was how I feel about black labels. But
Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way about back labels. I would say, like, he's a kid, right? So
yeah,
it's
he literally is a kid. He flexes so hard. He loves flexing. He likes going on YouTube channels and flexing basically.
I think if an adult did that to me, I would certainly, not to his face, but after he left, give a big hard eye roll to like.
Let's just say I didn't offer to buy it. Let's just say I said
guy, like but like I think it's fun and it's cool and like obviously like it's insane. Like when I was his age, I was at a Pokemon by the time I was his age, but a little bit younger, I would get like one pack every 2 weeks, and I never completed base set as a kid. I did pull the Charizard as a kid, which was freaking phenomenal. But
I just scammed my cousin's Charizard, so that's how I got mine. I literally had to trade her. I had to scam her for it.
Kids today, like particularly at card shows, like I see these kids like $40,000 of slabs.
It's like the
what is that?
Move.
What does that
I hope they have a college tuition. I hope they have a college
Yeah.
tuition at least at that point. At least they have the slabs to sell. Please
That's
sell
insane.
and put it into a bank account.
All right, guys. Slingshot to your heads. What is your single most favorite moment of the weekend?
Yeah, so I'll go first. My favorite moment was the trade night at the Hyatt, I believe. You remember? Were you at that trade night, Josh? I know Jake was there, but there was a moment towards the end of the night where I was sitting at a table. It was I think it was me, Dan, Gem Mint Pokemon, Travis from Going Twice, old school Pokemon, Nick, and we were all just sitting talking shop. We were just listening to stories from Travis, talking about his experiences. Just Gem Mint was there, and I was just kind of like looking around. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, I'm actually sitting at this table, and it was just a really cool experience. I was just sitting back, just listening to the stories, how they run their businesses. Dan was talking about how he kind of sells his pack and runs his business. It was just super interesting to hear some behind the scenes and stories from Travis from Going Twice. Super nice guy, really smart. Was really impressed with what he had to say. So I think just like sitting at that table and just like taking it in and just kind of like learning, just soaking it in, and it just kind of seems surreal. Just like a lot of these people, I've spent hours watching a lot of their videos, and I see Adam in the chat talking about Travis. What he was talking about was super interesting. Just some of the numbers behind whatnot, and just like was really impressed. Mason, you were there as well. Just like sitting at that table, like it was just like surreal, and just like learning everything.
Travis,
that was my favorite moment.
He's probably one of the people in this hobby that I want to most sit down with and pick his brain, because every time I talk to Travis, it's not only is he just a great guy to talk to, he's just kind of a great guy in general. He's funny, he's entertaining, etc., good conversationalist, but like, dude's got some knowledge up here, and it's all tucked away, and he's grinded as hard as anyone else. I'm sure he's grinded as hard as Rusty, you know what I mean? But in a totally different way.
He does, like, in no offense, Josh, because I know you're a big Whatnot guy, but just like that thought around Whatnot is kind of like the scummy gambling stuff. Like, I know there's great sellers on Whatnot, and you do it above board, and but like I just had like a view, like a preconceived notion in my head about what I thought like a huge Whatnot seller would be, and it was the opposite. Tragic. Like, just super impressed with him, like genuine guy, smart. He like works hard. He built his business smartly. Was just talking. I was just like really impressed, and I just had like a different. It just changed my mind about and it was really a cool experience listening to him.
Listen, I've known Travis since he was literally the only employee he had working for Going Twice, and he would be in hotel room after a different hotel room every night, because he was driving across the country, going from store to store, basically looking for inventory and taking everything he got that night. He'd be streaming it on a different desk, a different hotel desk every single night. I know this because Whatnot wasn't what it was back then. Like, this little company, I was probably one of 10 different streamers on there when Going Twice Travis was just Going Twice. And he has since grown into the empire that is going twice now. He has like employees, he has full-time people making content for him. He has like, now he's not traveling like every day and hustling like he was, but like I've seen him put in that work. And like when he was doing that, I was in his streams because I was also streaming. And after I'd be done streaming, Travis is such a fun guy. I'd go hang out with him in his lives because it's just fun to chat with him and hang out with him. And like the stories that guy tells are, I would like him and Gary probably could tell some crazy stories. And I would love to sit down. I've heard Gary tell a bunch of stories, but I haven't heard Travis tell a ton of stories. So I'd love to sit down with Travis sometime. He'll eventually come up to my neck of the woods, and we'll have an in-person like sit down. It'll be a great episode of Trainer Spotlight with Travis from Going Twice. But busy guy, but a brilliant guy for sure in the hobby. And like always, what you said, Mertz, is what everyone always says about Travis. Like they're like, I was expecting to be this like scummy, worst of the worst, because Whatnot's just the worst, right? Like we can all agree, Whatnot's the worst. We're on YouTube, we can talk trash about Whatnot. It's a fun thing to do. So it's but like honestly, Travis is not that way, and he's a really great representation of the hobby and of Whatnot, I would say too. So.
I did. Yeah, I didn't even know who he was. I like he was at the table. That just shows you how crazy that experience at the table was. Like everybody was there, and I was like, "Oh, how's it going? Are you a Whatnot streamer?" And somebody looked at me like side eyes, like, "This is like Travis from Going Twice." And I was like, "Oh, like don't even know who this guy." Like, and then he started talking. But that was my favorite experience. What about you, Jake? What was your favorite experience at the Collecticon?
I don't think I can like pick a moment. I think there were just occasional moments, maybe when I was sort of like really taking it in. I think when I learned and realized like and looked around during the day sometimes, and I saw every single booth busy, like around our little circle, and just sort of a feeling of like this was the first time a lot of people vended, and the first time a lot of people ever sold in person. And pretty much every person in our little section sold like multiple thousands of dollars of cards. Like really successful, like more like there were people who sold more than they've ever sold probably before since they've been in the hobby, like these types of things, and certainly in person in that experience. And I think there were a few moments where I was just sort of like taking that in, and that just felt like an accomplishment of the group and of sort of like everyone. And just like thankful in my head for like Nick getting us the table, like little moments where I'm just sort of like thank Swami for hosting, like just like all the people who kind of just did really helpful things and generous things and kind of did things to sort of make that happen for everyone. I thought that was cool. And then just like people having Airbnbs and going out to dinner together. Like I love seeing everyone hanging out and different groups hanging out and everyone enjoying themselves. There were lots of those types of moments. I didn't have like that one interaction or that one thing that was like, holy crap. But I just had like a great time the entire time and was just super thankful the entire time is the honest answer. So.
Yeah, completely agree. Go ahead, Josh.
I guess if I had to pick one single moment, the whole weekend was great. Honestly, like from the minute, okay, I know the moment. The moment that my favorite moment of the whole trip was the minute those wheels touched down on the runway. Okay, I could finally breathe a sigh of relief because I was terrified to get on the plane. You guys have no idea what I went through up here to go and fly to do this. I was literally, I said, if I die, I die. In the plane ride up, like once it was off the ground, I couldn't do anything about it. It's like my hands were off the wheel. I was flying and I was going to Collecticon. And you know what? I decided it was going to be worth it one way or the other. And it was fun. But I would say the best moment was when those wheels hit the ground in Denver, because I could finally and really, you saw the picture I posted in the Discord before I got on the plane in the runway. I'm pretty sure you guys probably both saw it. I was not a happy camper, but yes. And then the worst moment was having to go up again in a plane. But that was the worst moment because we almost missed our flight too. Oh we literally almost missed our flight.
It was stressful the next day with like the whole TSA situation. We actually ended up getting through really fast. The line was insane. But I was trying to theorize sort of like what happened, because the line, I've never seen a line like that in my entire life, but we got through it in like 30 minutes, which means that there's no way that that line could have ever been formed that way if they were getting everyone through in 30 minutes.
Did you have the express, like the express? No, okay, because I didn't. We didn't do. We had the regular too.
Yeah.
We just went through the line, but it was a mess. Like I said, I blame Mason because he like has a relationship with TSA. He used to work for them, so like I just generally and I blame Mason when anything goes on with TSA. So it's safe that way. He doesn't mind. He probably appreciates it.
So anything that like stood out about Denver that we didn't just cover there, good or bad deals, like maybe talking a little bit more about the cards, maybe a little bit more about the market. I can certainly talk about, I haven't talked a lot about like the deals I did or the sales or the money aspects or, you know.
The thing that stood out to me about kind of the deals or what was for sale or something that stood out is I think a few people have mentioned it so anecdotally, but I don't think graded cards did super great. And I think that was not something I personally was looking for. I know obviously people sold graded cards and traded, but I just thought that was something I noticed is that at every booth, everybody was rifling through the binders and looking at the raw cards and looking at the packs, the sealed packs for sale and the booster box and the ETBs. So I just thought that was interesting, a little anecdotal kind of experience that I had. And I don't know if it has anything to do with PSA being, having $15, $18 bulk. And people are, looking for raw to grade, but that's something I noticed about the deals.
The 25 to like 75, like between $25 and $100 cards that I brought were the ones that moved the easiest and the quickest. And things that I priced out like between $20 and $25, basically easy moving. Like, so for me, I was really moving a lot of lower end. So I had a lot of lower end product and I had a lot of really high end product too, like stuff that was kind of to draw the eyes. And then other stuff that was like, once you're there, just to pick up. Oh, and also PSA ones. I've been preaching it on my channel forever. PSA ones move so fast. I'm going to have so many more the next time. Like, I'm literally going to just farm PSA ones. It's just like, it's over, guys. It's over. But yeah, low end moved well for me personally.
So I moved sort of a bit of everything. I did not have raw, but I had quite a bit of decent amount of sealed and then a lot of slabs. I sold the most I've ever sold. It just was gangbusters. Like I was literally making a deal like every second. It felt like the last day. It was just like, not the first 4 hours of the last day, I sold $100. And then at noon till the end, I made a deal like every 10 minutes. It felt like every 15 minutes a deal went through or a sale went through or something. So it was great for me. I have already started buying cards with the cash. Everything sold well for me. I brought a bunch of, not too many under $100 slabs. I think I had maybe 3 or 4. Most of my slabs were like a lot of them were like 100 to 500, and then 500 to 5,000. I had some things in there. I sold a couple of $3,000 slabs. I sold a number of $1,000 slabs, $800 slabs, a couple 1,500. So like really well across the board. For some of the bigger cards, I did cash and trade as a way to. A lot of people wanted to spend like $1,200 to $1,500. I found as sort of the max, and so with some of the bigger cards I sold, I did some cash and trade, got some cool cards to add to my collection, and or stuff that's pretty liquid, and some cash to get out of those cards. And now I'm using like the sports guys language, but like the play language. But it's always I brought stuff that I felt good to sell because it was stuff that I have that I already, have copies of or doubles of or this or that. And I was really happy to get the cards that I got. And I'm also happy to have that money because I'm going to be buying quite a bit in PWCC and other places over the next few months is my plan. So I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. As far as like very specifics, I did not bring a lot of like early WotC stuff. I'm kind of at the price point sitting on a lot of that, but I sold a lot of like middle generation, original Nintendo EX era to black and white stuff. That's probably the vast majority of what I had, what I sold. And then a decent amount of like like Masaki vending, Ken Sugimori, like, or, 97, 98, 99 Meiji, 95 Top Zone. I sold a couple of that type of thing.
Someone in the chat asked how I did on my mystery packs.
Oh, those flew.
I made 70 of those, and I came home with 3.
Those
and people seem to like those. Yeah.
Those were big.
I'll be making more. I priced those at $25, and they all had a slab, and like the slabs are like all like $10, $15 at the low, high like $40, $50. So like nothing crazy. Like I put a couple of Ancient Muse in there, like PSA 8 Ancient Muse. I put a couple like Hidden Fates alternate art birds graded, like a couple of 9s of those, maybe a 10 here or there of things like common. I had put like base set first edition commons and low grade, like between 3s and 8s, and like common, uncommon, rare. So like nothing that's worth a ton, but things that you are kind of cool that people are like, they get in a mystery bag and they're like, oh, base set first edition, okay. Or they're like, oh, an alternate art graded birds, whatever. Okay, fine. I'll take another Hidden Fates birds. Like, that's fine if they already have one. If they don't, then they're happy to have it. So, like, I don't know. The thing about mystery bags that I've always said is, like, it's so easy to do a successful mystery bag. You just kind of make it so that if people open it, they're not unhappy. They're not like, okay, this sucks. I want to kill myself. Like, just kind of just be normal. Give people a range of values and kind of put some variety of things in. And I mean, I'll be making more. Let's just say I'll be making more for the next one. And I'm sure it'll do the same thing.
So what I would encourage people, go ahead.
I was just going to say, people just love to gamble, just gambling on the mystery stuff. So it's for the experience. So, they're not, it's not, if you value that experience in the opening it up, and maybe you're with your friends, then I don't know, maybe it's not the worst $25. I wouldn't, personally buy a $25 mystery bag, but yeah.
So to give a little bit more detail, so this is in my opinion at this point what I think I would do to maximize your time at Collecticon. So I would do 2 tables. I don't think you need more than 2 tables. I think 2 tables. I think you want to do a decent amount of sealed and have some in the back in case if it sells really well. Like I sold through a couple of things that I should have brought 2 or 3 of potentially because they did so well. So I would do some of that stuff. Then I would have 1 table be all, maybe a table and a half be slabs and graded stuff. And I would do, from high end to the right, and then just kind of, run the gamut from $10,000 to, $100 slabs over here. And then I would have a little booth with like $50 to $100 slabs in one area, and then a bunch of raw cards. And the Whatnot guys, they're the ones who cleaned out a lot of the raw stuff. Part of the reason why some people did so well on raw is because the Whatnot guys just came in and took a ton of it. Also, look your $50 to $100 slabs that look really good. We're not talking about like rare things. We're talking about shiny stuff with popular Pokemon that look cool. Like those are the types of items that sell really, that these big streamers on Whatnot sell really well. And they're at these events always buying. Every event I've been to, like Cloud, like all these guys are there. So, and that's the type of stuff that they will buy, and they'll themselves make the trip profitable for you if you bring that stuff. Like they'll pay the cost. They'll spend $2,000-$3,000 at your booth, etc. So that's, and I think you can accomplish that with 2 tables. I don't think you need more than that. I think 1 table is just not enough.
Yeah, I'll have 2 tables at the next event. Like I had 1 table this one, but I'll be doing 2 at the next event for sure.
Yeah, and 2 tables you can do yourself. It's going to be hard. I mean, 1 table, I was really busy, and there were times when 2 or 3, I was working on 2 to 3 deals at the exact same time. That only happened a couple of times. If you have 2 tables, then you have even more counter space. So potentially even more people could be looking, taking out cards, talking to you. It's going to be even more work for sure, but I think it's worth it. And that's what I would do. It also gives you a little bit of, because like singles did not sell well in Charlotte, particularly for us. Slabs sold really well. At this one, both singles and slabs did really well. Basically everything did well from what I was seeing. But singles did really well, like surprisingly. Just the prices that people were paying and the amount of people looking for that did really, really well. So I would want, and then Seal just is solid. People want to open things. It's really fun. So I would do a combination of all of that. And having niche things that other people don't have for me has worked really well. There are cards that I don't have to compete with a lot of other people in a lot of prices because I'm bringing like mid-gen stuff like Harry Potter. Like Josh and I are probably the only two people with Harry. We had a little Harry Potter corner, and there were a lot of people that came to us to talk about Harry Potter. At least 10, right, Josh? Something like that throughout it.
Oh,
You know?
I was still in the Harry Potter. Yeah, people love
Oh.
the Harry Potter there. Like
Yeah.
I sold out of it, so that was. I should have brought more. If I would have brought more, I would
I
have
sold out my
more.
entire box too.
I got 3 of the packs in my closet right behind me. So
Oh, nice. Let's go.
Yeah, you got an art set.
Yeah.
yeah, about an art set.
You're gonna
Yeah,
grade those
it's a
and then make that
beautiful
money.
product. Like I mean, Harry Potter is such a cool thing. Like I love the fact that it's like vintage, and once again, it goes back to being very affordable. That's what I like about it. If it was the same price as like Pokemon, not touching it. But the fact that it's like, you know, $20, it's like, okay, it's $20. Who cares? Like it's $20, whatever. Like I mean, and I'm not trying to downplay that. Like you don't want to waste $20, but it's not a waste if you have fun with it, if you enjoy it.
So the best trade and sale I made was I sold and slash traded one of my the one that I like doing the best, particularly because it's a friend of ours, like a member of the Discord and stuff, and he was excited to get the cards. He gave me some cards to add to my personal collection. Was a quarterfinalist 2019, which worked out well for both of us. That's what I'll say. Do you want to just pick one, Josh? That was like your favorite trade sale, and then we'll continue.
Yeah, we've already talked a little bit about it, but I probably was the happiest to sell my first appearance Ladybug PSA 8 and meet the collector of the first appearances who I would in the future be selling to, because legitimately he's the guy in the world who I'm probably going to be selling. So like making that connection, and like we followed each other on Instagram and we talked a couple times throughout, and like he's a really nice dude. Like that was probably my best sale, and it wasn't a huge sale. Like the PSA 8 first appearance Ladybug, I comped, or a PSA 7 comped at 365 in auction, and so I sold it to him for like 325 for the PSA 8, just as like there were no comps for 8s. The 7 looked close to the 8 in like appearance, and like it was just like he's the collector that would be, and I was expecting 365, 375, so it was like whatever. So I was happiest to meet him and make that deal, probably because like those are the type of people that like at Collecticon you want to meet, those niche collectors that for me as someone who does deal in that market, like it's just really beneficial to make that connection. Like because like he said to me like, oh, you're the dude on eBay? I've been watching your auction for like 6 months now. I said, oh, we probably talked then because you probably sent me an offer. He goes, oh no, I'm not. I don't send offers. I just watch. I'm just watching. I was like, okay, whatever. That's fine. But
how about you, Mertz?
I didn't make a trade, but I witnessed a potential trade at your booth. Do you remember when that kid walked up to you and said, "I'm just trying to turn nothing into something"? That was a that was a pretty funny moment.
Yeah, someone came up to me and said, "I'm interested in turning nothing into something," and I just like stared at me, and I was like, "What? Okay, good luck." It wasn't
a joke either.
Kids are little hustlers at these events. I'm pretty sure they go to these events to take advantage of us.
It wasn't a kid. It was it was like weird.
If it was a kid, it would have been cute. It was like a 20-year-old.
That's weird.
It was just like a weird dude that came up and like he didn't smile at all, and that was super awkward. But I thought it was funny to watch that. But the Best Buy
nothing.
Turn something into nothing. Everybody's trying to do the trade.
Me too, man. Me too.
Yeah, me too, man.
Me too, bro. Like, that's what I say.
Dude, that's life. That's life. That's how life.
Me too, man.
Like, everybody's trying to do that popular like trade and trade up and then make the whatever. So he did like the most terrible job of it. But in terms of best
feedback to those,
go ahead.
It's not great. Like if you are a kid, like even when cute little kids do it and like I see their parents behind them pushing them to do it, I'm like, I just don't like it. I just don't think it sends them a very good message. I don't like the whole thing at all. And it feels like it's more like a social media thing pushed by some of these like channels, and it's all BS because they just go in and they have a bunch of cred and they have big channels and people just give them deals because of that. Like the whole thing is just weird. And it just feels like instead of doing that, like learn how to actually be a young entrepreneur. Like, don't. It's. I'm gonna go on my a little bit of like if it was my kid, like when I was a kid, I used to buy sodas from the local store, and then I would go sell them at the park to like moms and thirsty kids who like would be like, and I've used my cuteness, like kids, use your cuteness, use what you got. But like asking for like charity or for me to like, it's just strange. I don't get it. And particularly with the parents standing right there, it's like, are you trying to like profit off of me? Does the kid even care? I've gotten some like weird vibes in those interactions where it's like,
It's
is the
always
kid
weird.
into this,
Yeah,
or is
it's
the
never
parents into it?
natural. It doesn't
Yeah.
feel natural very
Strange.
much. So like it, I mean, I participated in a couple, I'll be real. Like I got that vanilla ice card from some kid. Like
Sure. But
he
that was a
literally
play.
came up
That
with
was
a
a play.
vanilla ice card, which that kid is smart because Vanilla Ice was actually at the event. He's
Yeah.
like, hey, I'm trying to do a trade up. I just have this vanilla ice card. It was like one of those 90s cards. I laughed. I was like, huh, that's worth like 10 cents. Here, you can have a booster pack. I gave him like a Pokemon Go booster pack or something. And so like I participated. I got taken advantage of on that trade. Like I sell Pokemon Go booster packs for like $3-4, right? And
You'll
so
survive that one. You'll survive that one, Josh.
I'm gonna literally lose sleep about it because I got taken by that kid. But
Like
hey,
I gave out
Vanilla
a number of free things to kids, packs, little figures when they told me their favorite Pokemon, and I happened, like I had a bunch of these figures, and if you told me your favorite Pokemon is one of the figures, I give you the figure. That to me is great. Those are positive interactions. You coming up and saying, "Can I get something for nothing?" Exactly.
I'm trying to turn something into nothing.
Yeah, and again, it's 20-year-old.
Turn nothing into something or whatever it is.
So I don't know. A little strange, but
that's great. I wish I heard that guy. I was right there. I wish I would have heard that. That's so funny. I would have laughed. Yeah, I mean,
weird dude.
For the most part, though, there weren't that wasn't like that. And even the kids who came up, it wasn't awkward either. Like I participated in a couple trade ups like that. It's fine. I even turned some kids down. I was like, no, kid, I'm not gonna be. I was like, listen, for what you got, I'm not gonna be able to give you anything for it. Go, but I told them someone will though. I always told them encouraging.
I always
like, listen, I might not, but the sucker over here might.
You have to look through. You can't be rude. Like they give you this like thing which is like precious to them, and then you're looking through it, and it's got like stains on it, and it's like
they hand over this tin with just gross, just like this weird tin. You would open it up, and it'd be.
You say like awesome collection, like this is so cool. Like maybe like I can't. This really isn't right for me, but maybe Ray over there.
Ray loves it. Yeah,
Ray loves that
shop. He likes PSA 1s, right? That's what you guys say. You guys are the worst.
Ray really likes collections like this.
Yeah, I heard Ray's the guy to go to. Yeah, for the the stuff you don't want.
Yeah, exactly. He'll give you something for nothing. Like
Think of it, yeah. I heard he likes MetaZoo, so yeah, that might be true.
Yeah. But yeah, just as you said, Josh, like and like super minor thing, and it's a tiny part of it, and it's wonderful. Like kids who come up and like, I mean, that's an important interaction. Like I think it's important to be like super kind, give them like your time, be super enthusiastic, like because like kids can be like very impressionable, and those cards are very important to them. We remember what it's like being a kid, so it's just like having that awareness as an adult and making that moment special, and important, because it's very meaningful to have an adult, care about something like that as a kid. Like that's an important thing. And they're
the future of the hobby. They legitimately are the future of our investments. So if anyone believes that these things are investments in the least, you better be trying to get these kids to be in on it. Like if you're chasing the kids out, then what are we doing here? Like
and it's not like lying or pretending with the kids, but it's just treating it with the respect. And mirroring their excitement. You
gotta love the kids. And you gotta welcome them in. They're the new generation. Like every time I see kids getting hooked on Pokemon cards, it makes me feel even better about what I'm doing as a person with my life.
So Legend of Luke says, thoughts on the upcoming Star Wars Galaxy set. I have not been looking into this. I don't really know what to expect. Luke, Generally with as you probably know, because you're asking this question, like they're pretty, everything has serialized stuff in it pretty much these days, unless it's like a living set or some sort of I feel like 9 out of 10 Star Wars sets these days are going to have serialized cards. I would assume this would have serialized. I mean, even the one before that had serialized stuff in it, just not to the extent. Yeah, but obviously the last one was like a huge hit. Should be interesting.
It's not a trading card game, so I see no reason why they wouldn't like put parallels and like different numbered cards serialized, because they can literally do that. The only reason I've ever argued against wanting serialized cards in Pokemon or other trading card games is because it hampers their ability to actually like reprint for the games, the sake of the game, like for the accessibility of it, because like that's always something you have to think about with a game. But when it's not a game, it's literally like, yeah, put all the numbered variants, 1 of 69, 1 of 420, whatever you got to do to sell it. Do it, baby.
Any thoughts, Mertz, on that stuff? I don't know if we were following it yet.
Nothing at all. No idea.
I really want to check that Star Wars stuff up. You were showing me some of the stuff in your booth that was really cool from it. But I need to check out that set because I've heard a lot of good things about that Star Wars Galaxy.
I just bought like one of my favorite Galaxy cards from that set. So I'm excited to get that.
I love Star Wars. So I mean, Star Wars had some really cool trading card games.
These arts are iconic. I mean, these are like the one I just bought from like Jack Kirby, who like anyone in like comic books would, I mean, these people are just like, these are some of the greatest artists in our sort of nerddom, doing Star Wars stuff. So it's cool stuff, I think. Okay. Japanese designers, the whole topic in itself. Majority of those cards go for like 5 times the amount of the English variants. Yeah, this is certainly something that has been going on for a while. I feel like it's been even increasing. It's like every 3 months I go and sort of look back at it, and I'm seeing that the Japanese waifus, as they're called, are going for even more. I don't know if I have anything. Do you guys have anything on this? It's definitely an interesting phenomenon. If we want,
I just don't understand it because it's got the identical art as the English variant. Like, what makes the Japanese one pop? I have no idea.
Yeah.
It's a cultural thing, I believe. As far as like the chase cards in the set, it is always the waifu cards. I don't know why certain waifus over others. I thought that I had some rhyme or reason, but then like it literally something comes out and it just blows my expectations. Like, oh, that's the one that's a chase. Okay, fair enough. I guess so. So it's always kind of baffled me with the full art trainer thing, because I don't want to say I didn't like them back when they were undervalued, but like it's not that I didn't like them, but I wasn't ever really excited to pull them. I liked the colors. I always appreciated how the colors were better than rainbow rares, but like it wasn't like I was ever excited. Like, to put it into perspective, as the whole waifu thing was happening, like I had a TCG player store, had lots of waifus on my store. I should have in the 2-3 weeks, because it didn't happen overnight. Everyone likes to think it happened like the minute Twice Wake Jake made that video. It didn't. It happened over the course of 2 to 3 weeks, because I went back, looked at my TCG player, like my sales, and there were lots of separate sales from different people of waifus that were just that were happening over the course of 2 to 3 weeks during that time period, which didn't happen before. So there were writing on the wall beforehand for people who had stores. And so like it wasn't something I didn't care about it. And I still, to be honest, don't care about it. I could care less. To be honest, the only reason I care about it is because other people care about it. Like, the reason that I get excited when I open one on a stream is because person who's behind the camera who's watching is probably getting excited. So I kind of have to mirror that excitement. I want to be like, oh, you got a waifu. Yeah, she's probably underage and you're probably weird for getting excited about that. So like if I say that, it's probably not going to be as popular. So I'm like, hey, that's really cool. You got a full art trainer. That's great. It's blah, 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 whatever it is. So
what do you think, Mertz?
Yeah, I don't understand the waifu culture personally. I don't hate on anybody who is into the waifu game, but I personally don't partake in that situation. But yeah, just like to the core of the question, yeah, somebody in the chat, it looks like Adam there said that the texture on the Japanese is better. That's typically the case. Card quality,
for sure.
But in terms of just the artwork, I mean, they're identical, so I don't know why one would be 5 times the amount. Supply is a factor as well, obviously, but that I don't understand.
And something I've talked about, right, is that it's the exact opposite for other cards. So there's this very strange thing where it's like, why does that one people prefer the Japanese and like the, because like, yeah, the card quality, the style of it versus versus over here where you also have the same thing, but on the English, it's strange. It's not something I understand. And it's not something I would ever speculate in because those cards are wildly overvalued for me and what I enjoy, and I don't get it. So it would just be something that would be like really stupid on both accounts, both as like an investor speculator and as also like a collector for me to ever get involved. But I think it's awesome because I think it's awesome that people really love this stuff and enjoy it. And I think it's awesome that people are excited about it and that people are collecting. Okay. So, and I doubt that it's driven a lot, like it's kind of a niche, interesting thing. So it doesn't feel like it's these investors and stonkers selling to stonkers. I'm sure that that's part of it. Like any market that gets really hot, that's going to be a decent amount of it. But I'm sure there's a lot of genuine sticky interest for something like that to take.
I'm sure there is some sticky interest there, Jake.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's the same thing like in Weiss. Like I really like quite a bit of Weiss, but not so much some of the waifu stuff. Like if it's just a waifu, like it has to be a character that I care about or that is valuable or that's important. And the fact that she's like half naked or whatever is not why I'm interested or buying the card. In fact, I don't like that so much. But yeah, it's. I mean, look at Yu-Gi-Oh! Look at anything, Dark Magician Girl, some of those like, this is something that exists in a lot of different hobbies. In Star Wars,
Can I say one thing about it though that we haven't touched on that
Sure.
never gets touched on about waifus?
Sure.
It's a very, very easy, not easy, but it's a very accessible subset to collect. So one thing about Pokemon that makes certain things collectible, and like breaks, for example, breaks suck because breaks just aren't fun to collect. And let's be real, rainbows aren't that fun to collect either because they don't look good like when you collect them on a page. You step 5 feet away, it looks like the same thing. You get blinded by the mirror of the rainbows. Full art trainers, they look good on a page. Like they're all different. You can tell individually each one when you line them up, every single trainer from every set, and you collect the whole thing. It's a subset to collect.
Well,
it also limits.
Respectfully, why do you like those ghost rares? They look the exact same every single one.
And so that's exactly, they look very much so the exact same. And that's
like
the same
rainbow
thing
rare
negativity
is very irrational. I'm just gonna throw it out there. Like people love things that look all the same in uniform also.
That's fair. That's fair.
Better a feeling. I just think
that's true. That's true. But okay, so anyway, though, but the point is, it's a subset to collect with full art trainers, and that's something that no one talks about. Is it's like when you get a new set that comes out, there's like what 4 or 5 full art trainers. Like if you only collect full art trainers and that's your thing, like you don't have to go get a master set. You're not spending all the time looking for the Moonbryon or the alternate art. Just like you're going to get your trainers, you're slotting them into your collection, whether it's graded, whether it's binder, whatever. It is like a thing that you can collect. And there's something to be said for subsets. I think that's why people like Hidden Fate subsets, the shiny subsets. Same thing with Shining Fates. People like subsets to collect, Like, and that's one thing that has the strength of full art trainers that I will give it, that I realize now. I don't know. That's just a thought I have.
I mean, my thing with full art trainers back before Twice Baked Jake made his video, back before people were talking about this as much, is like, I always felt that trainers were undervalued because certain trainers are like important to the Game Boy game, to the anime, to like the whole experience. And it was very interesting to me that so much of the value and focus was always on and even if we go back to like the Gym Challenge series, like people love Gym Challenge and Gym Heroes in part because it was like Blaine's Charizard, Blaine's Arcanine. Like there was a connection to that sort of thing. But interestingly, the trainers were not super popular. Like the full art, the
half art trainers, yeah,
these types of things. So. And I think part of that was because trainers were just back then because like none of them were hollow before that. Like they didn't start in Pokemon. Trainers did not start in a good place. When you opened a base set pack and you opened a rare trainer, it was frustrating because those were not hollows, right? And it wasn't until they added it a little bit later in Team Rocket, when they even started adding those hollows that so there might be something there in that. But and that's why maybe it took a little while for even full art trainers or even some of the shiny stuff to start to catch on, because it was never the chase card. It was never the main thing. And then I think as soon as someone makes a video who has like a big following, and then people start buying it, you start seeing those prices go up. Then it sort of becomes like a self-fulfilling. It's sort of like, then it's like, oh, this is valuable. And then that gives more permission to people to be like, oh, I do like this. It is cool. I mean, so much of this stuff, like, why is Moonbryon, and we'll go to that question next, like, why Moonbryon? Out of this whole era. Why that?
Why not Duraludon? Why not Duraludon VMAX? That one's just as rare. The alternate out of that's just as rare. Why not? That should be $1,000 too. I'm gonna go buy out all the Duraludon VMAX alternate arts right now, because that should also be $1,000.
And I think the answer is both. And this is an interesting phenomenon that happens, is that when something is slightly better, there can be a like intrinsically, there can be sort of a cascading effect, where like everyone says that, and then you hear that message repeated over and over again. And it can happen the opposite way, like how Battle Styles, I talked about this weekend with people, like Battle Styles is like a much better set than like Darkness Ablaze, freaking Gart, like trash, right? Like Battle Styles is like really good set with some really great cards in it, right? But like how these messages, like they can get like really positive, everyone repeating how great something is, or everyone repeating how negative something is, that can really impact stuff. Now, usually it's based on something real. Like people can't just be like completely sold nothing, but we're very susceptible, everyone, to these types of messages, to these types of things. And I think it has a cascading effect. So
I think you made some good points. I think it had to start somewhere with Moonbryon. I think it's a beautiful artwork, and it's a gorgeous artwork. But I think you're right. Once people start to get validation, like, oh, and it starts to build kind of momentum on its own, they have their thoughts validated, and it becomes word of mouth. So I think it needs a little bit of both, to start. But those are some interesting points.
Like, I love the Celebi. The Celebi is actually my favorite one. The
Celebi art, that's a gorgeous.
Moonbryon for me is definitely a top 5 for me personally. Art, it's gorgeous. Like, again, we're not picking one that like someone's trying to push down my throat. Like that. What? Like, I don't like Umbreon and it's an ugly art. No, it's like I freaking love Umbreon and that art is amazing, right? But it's like there are 3 or 4 others that I find equally as attractive, equally as cool, and Pokemon that I like personally equally as much. Like I like Celebi just as much as Umbreon. They're two of my top 20 probably. So it's just interesting how, like, I think there's that cascading effect where it was like everyone saying that to each other that totally took the wind out of a Celebi or some of these other ones. It's interesting. Or you saw like when Rev made his video, and all that interest that went on Lost Origins and the alt arts from that set, which are very beautiful, I think, and there's a sort of that truth in it, but then it also, but this is why things are so speculative. These are why these markets are so speculative. And so much of it is based on what people are saying, what people are talking about in a moment, versus very concrete, objective things that can't be impacted by our decisions, or what we say or our feelings.
Is it a cop-out to say that it's really a rational market and that it's all cardboard and it literally are little square rectangles that there could be nothing at one point? I mean, it's very irrational.
I think that my pushback would be like, this stuff brings us a lot of feelings and joy and experiences and connections and friendships. So like, I think this stuff has a tremendous value, and certain things are going to do that more than others, but that a lot of that is very like hard to put your finger on exactly, and can be very impacted by like what influential people say or tell you. So and people really remember, like you have a big influential person say like, this is bad. Like, even if you like it, it's probably going to impact you 25, 30%, like on how much you like it. And it's probably going to make you choose something else. And I've seen that happen a number of times. Like, like people back in the day saying, for example, like, like big fan of Gary, for example, but Gary said Japanese wasn't investable, or something like that, and would say that a lot. And I think that there were probably a segment of people who prefer Japanese that maybe didn't go into it because of that. Now, a small, like, do I think it's humongous or something? No, not necessarily. But the bigger, the more respected the person is, the more right that person has been, the bigger that person is, the more what they say, I think can sway that, 20-30% one. And then there's a cascading effect, because then you see prices. So someone says something positive, sways a few people to start buying it. The prices go up. Then it's like, oh, aha, they're right. They understand this market, blah, 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 blah. And then people rushed even more. And then next time you trust their opinion even more against maybe your own sort of instincts or against sort of what you like the best. And that's how these markets are highly speculative. But there are like things are happening, like your feelings and your value assessments are happening. It's not all like, it's like some people are just like, it's all irrational or it's all not, like you can't, it's like, no, like you actually can. We are patterned human beings, and like greed and fear cycles and all these types of things, like they do actually happen over and over and over again. So you can kind of take a step back and be thoughtful about sort of how you collect and when you buy certain things, and try to take advantage or not get caught up in some of that, is important, I think.
So who do we blame for the top sum Charizard? The no.
I know exactly. I won't say their name, but I know exactly who pushed Top Soon, and I know the exact group of people who did it, and I know how much money they had to start buying things up. So and that one I know exactly who.
Those poor people who bought in on that, because that is a classic. That is like the biggest case I've ever seen of like.
Evolution's Charizard is even worse. Evolution's Charizard is even worse by a percentage basis.
Oh, by percentage? I'm sure that's probably true. But I mean, just like pump and dump, baby. Like that is like what that top sum Charizard is such an egregious like example of like the worst. Like,
but I would argue the Evolution's Charizard is way worse because it impacted so many people. Whereas,
more people, like regular people.
Thousands and thousands and thousands of people lost 90%. That card, like, it was probably just the shell. Like, it was probably the pumpers, and then they just like maybe one person got caught up, but like, and how many it's 3 sales, 4 people.
Right, it was only 2 or 3 big ones.
It's like 3 sales on the same exact cert. So I think that's a good point. Like 3 guys lost a lot of money, whereas with Evolution's Charizard,
it impacted
everybody was holding the bag.
I agree with that. Now that you put it that way, that's a good point. And by percentage wise, it's egregious too.
Yeah, and the type of people, like it's sort of like if you're spending 50, like 200, 500,000 on dollars, and you're in this hobby for 3 months, and you're spending it on that because some guy told you that this is like the first ever Charizard and like the key Charizard and will always be more valuable than these types of things. Like, first of all, it could have been. Now, I think it's really ambitious, and I'm going to put this extremely mildly. One, it's like extremely likely not the first Charizard, and the Bandai 1996 is. I don't really care. I don't really want to get into that debate.
Who cares, right? Yeah, right? But
like that was missing in the messaging from these people who were pushing these cards out. They were saying this is the first.
1995. This is it. This is the first one.
No number. Blueback is the first printing. No number is the first printing of Blueback. And
it is known. It is known, Khaleesi. Yes.
Exactly. So already bad start, right? Bad not being deep enough in the hobby to know the discussion that's going around these things. Already bad start. Whatever. But then, if you are someone who has that type of money and you listen to someone who speaks very confidently online, like, and you make that mistake, like, I mean, that's it. But again, I have done consults with people who were going to buy $200,000, $300,000 cards because they talked to a hobby expert about it. And they told them and it's like, you've been doing this for 3 months. And it's like, you're willing to take this other person's opinion who owns the card themselves, or, I don't know. It was interesting engaging with people and sort of how willing they were to spend so much money because prices were continuing to go up and there was sort of that hype. So part of it is understanding, like, when you're in that bubble hype, people behave. So part of why I came out on my channel for a year saying we're in a bubble and a mania, it wasn't the prices, it was the psychology. It was when you start interacting with people who have that much FOMO and sort of that, and are willing to spend highest price ever on something in that type of environment, like, that is the type of thing that's scary. And so that card for sure falls into that. And, you know, I mean, we can go back, like, I think one of my first videos, I talked about those cards before they moved up. And I, you know, someone in my channel, someone in my comment section, these cards are worthless, like nobody like, you know, et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, well, okay, like these cards could pump up hugely in value because there's extremely few of them. And because they were before, they're, you know, they're either the first or one of the first sets, right? They're one of the first sets. I don't even want to say, or very, very likely they are not the first. They're one of the first sets ever. You know, and for these to pop up to 10,000 or 15,000 or something like that, you know, would not be crazy given the rarity, given the age, you know, these types of things. Now, when they hit 500,000 or whatever, it's like, holy crap, right? That is a whole new narrative that all of a sudden never existed. And it's scary because like narrative should take time. And it should take, like, you want to feel like the whole hobby's coming with it, not like it's just three guys spending an insane amount of money on something, right? So, for example, like there are a number of trophy cards I think are overvalued. There are a number that I think are undervalued. And you want to see these things kind of like change over time. And seeing sort of a lot of people agree and a lot of different influencers agree and good discussion and debate, not just one person saying something and then a bunch of huge high rollers spending a lot of money on it, seeing a huge change in price. And then, you know, and the truth is a lot of people were impacted, not on that Charizard, but on the other ones and on the lower graded ones and on the other hollows, because there were tons of people who bought those. Because a lot of people think in sort of like relative terms. So it's like, well, if that's 500,000, then this one has to be 3,000 or 2,000 or 1,000, you know? And now I don't think those cards have fallen nearly as much as the Charizard. You know, I think that, you know, there were like, you could buy like some of those 9s for like $500 and now they're still probably, you know, 1,000 or so or 1,500. And there were probably some people who bought them at 5,000 and, you know, lost 2/3 of their money or whatever. But I mean, Dark Charizard, PSA 10 first edition, and Gym Challenge, PSA 10 first edition, the highest sells on those were 12,000 and now they're 4,000 or 5,000. So it's not that much of a difference in percentage. But there were some that just sort of got like the Lugia PSA 10 first edition Neogen, the one that sold for like 122 when that card was selling for 9,000 like months before, you know, or 9 to 15,000. So stuff like that is these interesting kind of one-off sales that impact so many things. But now, like, the majority of people probably watching this channel and engaged this deep, like you are not going to be the ones, like you're going to have the knowledge to sort of be like, huh, that's a weird sale. Like you'll have that sort of feeling and then you'll have that pause. And that's valuable. Take a beat, you know,
take a second.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I think what that tops on, yeah, just like take a moment. I think it was just like a perfect like confluence of events. Like I saw Lord Pokesmoke put in the chat, like it started with PSA mislabeling it 1995. Shouldn't have been 1995. Should have been 1996. Sports guys getting into the stonks, wanting the rookie cards, and trying to take that same logic over to the Pokemon world to get the first appearance rookies, and not understanding the difference between. Yeah, not understanding the difference between this isn't from the main TCG. This is from a completely different release, very, very much more niche. They just rookie 1995 first Charizard, and it just kind of bubbled up from there, and it just kind of was like a perfect storm. So that was just a weird scenario. $500,000, and then it sells for I think like 35K a couple months ago, which is crazy.
Anything can be shilled. And I was talking to PK about this the other day because he was talking to me about the nutrition label Salamence that recently sold a raw copy of that nutrition label sold on Rattle's personal eBay account for $1,300. $1,300 for a nutritional. And it's like there's two of them that exist, I think. I think PK has one and Rattle has another. Mm-hmm. That card, sorry, Rattle. Sorry, PK. That card has been shilled to all hell by none other than the two people who own those two cards. And it's a very rare card. PK sat there and tried to explain to me for like 20, 30 minutes about how rare of a card and how I should really care about it. But for my money, for $1,300, you could have a Moonbryon, a PSA 10 Moonbryon for $1,300. Not just to bring up the question right now for basic trade, but to my point, anything is shillable. Anything is people will pay what they want to. And to be honest, the nutrition label Salamence, maybe it's worth $2,000, and I'm a fool. Maybe Gym Mint Pokemon Zach is sitting there salivating right now, like, oh, $1,300 for that nutrition label, baby. I'm gonna buy 3 of those right now. I'm gonna buy them out. And
there's no established market for determining how much an error like that should be worth, or enough of an established market, because why does that error matter versus other errors? And then does it matter how much? And then what is the actual rarity of something like that now versus what it'll be in the future? I mean, exactly what you said. The right person could pay any, like, it's whatever someone's willing to pay. And if a card is very rare, or a thing is sort of rare and it has a story to it and people get excited by that, you need only a few people for it to be very expensive.
Yeah.
But if you come to me with anything and say that you should just want this because it's rare, and I'm not saying that's what they're saying, like, my next response will be like, well, that's cool if I really want it, like, for other reasons. But if that's the only reason, is just because of its like rarity, like there's tons, like, I have one of ones all over the place on my desk that sell for $10, $30, $40 from many things that I think are much cooler than that card. So I think that yeah, be careful with and it's great to hear everyone's opinions. It's great to hear you and I's opinion. It's great to hear PK's and Rattle's opinion on it. And no one is like the expert. No one is the person who should decide what you out there want. Just be careful being swayed. And some people have very strong personalities, and some people have very strong opinions also. And that can be very swayable. Like if someone comes out and says, this is definitely the best, or this or that, now other people get really turned off by that type of personality. So it can swing both ways, but
we had a fun time with it. Me and PK were having a fun time talking about it, because he has one too. PK has another one. So like, we were going back and forth with it, and in the most respectful way. But to be 100% transparent, I could care less about a nutrition label salad. It could be on a Pikachu nutrition label, and it could say it's 69 calories and 420 grams of fat, and I could probably care less.
To me, it's worth maybe $60.
I thought you were gonna say 60 cents, and that right there.
To me, $50, $60 because it's unique and it's kind of cool. But I am not an error collector, so if you get the right person and you get the right error collector who has a lot of money and who's already collected sort of everything, you can charge whatever you want. Now, why do they need that one in their collection when there's going to be lots of other errors they could collect? Like, why is that super important? That's where I get a little, whereas like if it's like an early documented error in WotC, it's an important documented error in the hobby, it's an extremely rare error, I get that a little bit more. But I've also seen people pay, but like, how do you value that error over like a super miscut error or like other types of errors? And like, which one do you want more? And it's also not really valuable for us to have the discussion, because we are not the market for that.
We're not the buyers. No way. Right. Yeah. I like errors though. I do collect errors. I have a bunch of.
Oh, so you are a buyer so you might.
I am a buyer on errors.
Okay, so because
I like, my favorite errors are the jungle no symbol error. I'm also a huge no damage Ninetales error. I love those types of things where it's like a legitimate card that they left something out of the printing of it, not like a little printer hickey or like a little weird. I mean, I like some miscuts, like offcut. Like I sold Zach I had a shadowless Zapdos from base set that was like legitimately. It was a printer dot or a alignment dot. It was like off the side of the card. Coolest shadowless like Zapdos I'd ever seen. I sold it to him for like $125. I thought it was really neat. And I definitely, for the price, $125, if like learning about the nutrition layer of Salamence, I was like, geez, give me 10 of those Zapdos. Like, give me 10 of those shadowless Zapdoses. But that's just my personal like error collecting. Every error collector is different. So I'm probably not the market for that particular error. You know what I mean? I don't like modern errors that much. I like vintage WotC errors because the print quality was different back then. And I feel like you see every other, as a pack breaker, I open up modern packs all the time and I see miscuts and all this stuff all the time with the quality of the packs. I don't see that as often in WotC, so that's why I personally like the older WotC miscuts and things more than I like the newer stuff. But
Right.
like I said, I'm not a buyer for that thing, so maybe you're right. Maybe that's just the reason we're talking about it is we don't have valid opinions on it because
Well,
none of us are buyers for that card.
I think you do. I mean, I think you actually, after listening to you talk about that, I think you have real thoughts and feelings. I think for me, I'm less in that world. And so I don't mean that, like, for me, my opinion is of the utmost importance because I'm going to do what I want and what I think has value, right? But for people out there, it can be who care about that more instinctively and think that's cool. Like they hear about that and they're like, oh, that's cool. I have none of that. I say, ooh, that looks bad. Like that, just being completely honest, like that's my response, like instinctively. Like, why do I care about this and it doesn't look good? Other people may have like, ooh, that's really cool. That's real. How did that happen? What's the story of how that happened? How rare is it? It's so interesting that they made that type of mistake. And those are the people I would listen to. Like, if you have that instinct, you want to hear those people discuss that market because they're going to be the people who set that market, not someone like me. And
Yeah,
I think it's really cool that people like it. Like for me, you don't yuck people's yums in the sense of like have respect for people having different feelings and different opinions, and that it's cool that people like stuff.
Yeah, and it's totally cool. And my point, the way it came
Sorry,
up
Mitch.
with like the conversation with PK. Yeah, sorry. It was basically is in passing. Like he said, "Oh, that Salamence sold for 13." I was
Yeah.
like, $13? Cool. That's all right. That's crazy. He goes, no, oh no, 1,300. And I go, what was the grade? I was like, was it like a PSA 10? He goes, it was raw. And I said, by George, what the hell are we doing here? And then that's how that conversation went, and it ensued for like 30 minutes. He's like, oh no, that's a really rare. He tried to tell me that Plasma Blast is like a really short print set because it's black and white era and nobody liked black and white back then. And they went through like hundreds of cards looking for the error and there weren't other ones. I get it. Like, I totally get it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
But I literally I was like, I didn't throw my hat down. That's an exaggeration. But when he said, he corrected me, I said, PK, I'm going to talk about this on my next podcast because that is you're my friend. That is ridiculous. I said, you and Rattle shield that card to all hell. And I said, please sell the next one you have. He said, oh yeah, I'm going to authenticate it and sell it or whatever. So it'll be better. So,
I think for me, what's important to not shill something is to talk about the downsides and to talk about the things that are weak or why people don't like it. So like whenever I've talked about something, I hope on this channel, whenever I've talked about something that I really like or I really think is undervalued, I also try to talk about why I think that other people don't like it or that it hasn't gotten to that point. And that might have been missing from that discussion. I don't really know. What do you think, Meritz, about this?
I like that Salamence nutrition facts there. I think it's awesome. I like it a lot more than a weird D edition Butterfree little ink that moved over or the fighting symbol switched to the side on a Diglett. Like I think it's cool. There's a story behind it. Somebody was having a weird day at WotC and dropped like a wrapper on the print. It's just cool. There's a story behind it, and sure, there's a story behind the D edition. Maybe somebody filled up too much ink or something, but I personally like it. And you're right. I don't know if it, because we're not direct buyers of a $1,300 weird dollar error, I don't know that makes our opinion invalid, but we're not the consumers of that. I think that the error kind of looks like Basic is saying that his favorite error is the D edition Butterfree, but
I like the D edition error better than I like a lot of other errors too, even though it is a weird thing. Yeah.
It's just I don't know. From I'm not an error collector yet, but like what? It seems like
it illustrates how we all have different opinions. And I'm so glad you shared that, Meritz, right? Because that was exactly what I was saying, is that some people might have that exact instinct around it, whereas I don't. But it's understanding how someone could, and that's where the value could come from.
And I think that the errors are.
I agree with you, Meritz. I definitely agree. So sorry, the D edition. I don't disagree with you on that.
It's not. D edition's cool. Errors are cool, but I think that from what I've seen, and just like anecdotally, it seems like kind of error collecting becomes the final frontier for some of these big collectors that we're all aware of. They finish their huge sets like a Gem Mint. I mean, he's completed every set card you could ever think of. Quachancy comes to mind. Shout out Quachancy. He's a big error guy. It's just like seems to be the final frontier, but I don't know. It's to each his own. I like the story behind it. Salamence is pretty sweet. Don't know if it's worth 1,300 though.
All right, so
it is to somebody. It was paid for, so it is worth 1,300 to someone. So like I'm clearly in the wrong about that. I just like I promised PK that I would bring it up in a live, and I was like, I'm gonna give you hell for that, man. I'm gonna give you hell for that.
Okay, so Basic Trainer says Moonbreon on PSA 10 on auction with 8 minutes left. So we'll talk a little bit about the Moonbreon, and then we'll keep it moving. We are like an hour and a half behind chat. I apologize.
we're like super far behind. Keep it moving on Moonbreon. What I think is that it's like at its peak right now. If I not financial advice, don't go sell your Moonbreons. Nobody cares what I have to think anyways. But if I owned a PSA 10 Moonbreon, I would sell it immediately. I think that there's in my personal opinion, I think there's a good shot that the next cool thing from Scarlet and Violet's gonna come out, and maybe Moonbreon's gonna die out a little bit. I don't know. I don't want to give like direct advice. I'd be a seller at 1,200 easy.
Evolving Skies is gonna get reprinted. Anyone who doesn't think Evolving Skies is gonna get reprinted, I don't know what you're smoking, but I'm sorry. I'm sorry if you're holding on to those boxes, and if a reprint is going to hurt you so bad that you're going to be mad at me for saying that it's going to get reprinted. But if that's the case, you probably should sell those boxes. They're like 250, 260 bucks now. Jake, what was the number one thing that everyone asked about at the number one question? I don't care. At the entire con, that in our little section, what they asked? You go ahead and
how much for I brought an Evolving Skies box, basically one of my last ones that I'm selling.
And literally, Jake had some of the coolest shit. He had a Skyridge Crystal Charizard PSA 10 on the table. He had Meiji like 9 Lugias just sitting out, just chilling on the table. Some of the coolest, most historic. He had the Misaki cards, all of them sitting out there. You know what people asked about? Every time, 9 times out of 10, every time they walk by, hey, what's going on with that Evolving Skies booster box? They could care less about the coolest shit in the hobby. They wanted the other coolest thing in the hobby, the Evolving Skies booster box.
Yeah, that feels a little extreme to me. I think that but yes, I think that the number one item that I got asked about most was probably that item.
Oh, and it's not extreme. That was. I listened to it all day, Jake.
Almost a third of the people that were interested in anything were interested in that box, which is amazing when you think of I have like 150 other great items, and 1 out of 3 people that I talk to is a quick question about trying to get that box.
Yes, that Moonbreon, man, it's like it has got something going for it. But if you don't think that box is going to get reprinted, like the second they have the ability to, or if they haven't already done it and they just haven't released the waves yet, I don't know, the level of confidence that you can go through life with that type of like surety, that it's like I envy you. I envy you because I am confident Pokemon they like money, and they just bought a printing facility that they can run the schedule for. And I happen to know that Evolving Skies is probably the most in-demand set I have ever seen. Like, as a pack breaker, someone who deals in Modern, I can't keep the stuff in stock, and I buy it by the bucket load. In fact, there's nothing rare about Evolving Skies. It is the single most Sword and Shield printed set out of all of the sets. There is no set that's been reprinted more than Evolving Skies, and yet people still worry about a reprint. Like, the reprint needs to happen. It's not when, it's if. And you can take that to the bank. Like, I don't know if it's gonna be 3 months, 6 months, a year. There's a 4-year period where they will. Hell, they'll go outside that 4-year. It's not like there's a contract written in blood that Pokemon signed with the devil where they can't reprint the most in-demand set ever. If Moonbreon keeps going up and if people keep wanting it, they'll keep printing it. And I'm sorry if I offended anyone by this, but it's just, I mean, it's not even offensive, I don't think.
I have no idea personally if they're going to reprint it or not. It would not shock me if they reprinted it. If I had to put a percentage, I would say 50-50. So I'm much less confident than you, Josh, that they'll reprint it. But I really have no idea, like zero idea. And it's sort of like, are they just going to move on to new things, or are they going to go back and do that? Who the hell knows? And everything Josh said about they could print it, like Pokemon could like have some like a bad few sets, and then they just decide no one's buying this. Let's just reprint of all these guys. Like they can
Why
do
not? Why
whatever
not?
they want, right? So all of that's on the table. All I can tell you guys is exactly what I've done. So I got my boxes at 95. I sold a third of them at 180, a third of them at 200, a third of them at 220 to 240. And now I have 6 left. I've sold enough now that I feel comfortable hanging on to them a little longer. I also like do want to open some maybe and just like have some in case it stocks up.
Don't do it. Don't open it, Jake. I'm going to tell you right now.
I do not think, like, financially speaking, I should just sell every box. Like, if I needed the money in any sort of way, to this second, it would all be gone. Like, right. So the only reason I'm holding on to that last case is because I've made quite a lot on it already, and because I enjoy it and I like having a little bit of everything around, and I'm willing for it to sort of flatline or go back down, and I'm willing to take a, realistically an $80 to $100 hit on each booster box if they were to reprint it, and the reprint would be big enough. Okay. So similarly with this card, when it got to 700-800, I was already, I don't know exactly what I said on this channel, but probably something like anything that it could keep going up, because this tends to be what I usually use. And this is exactly what I said on like Evolutions booster boxes when they were 300 to 400. I said, listen, it could keep going up, but it's concerning. It's already at an extremely high price point. It seems to be defying logic that as more get graded, it continues to go up even more. Prices on PSA just keep getting lower and lower. More of it just keeps getting opened and opened. There's a potential reprint issue. Every new set that comes out, there are new alt arts that are taking some of the attention, some of the money potentially from this area. And then there's going to be a whole new block, just as Mert said, there's going to be a whole new block of sets that might have a different chase art, that alt arts kind of have come down in popularity. Everything is risk there, and it seems like it's probably only a matter of time, but it could continue to go up until it hits that point. None of us know. I would have sold at 700 to 800, just like I would have sold those evolving booster boxes at 400, and then they went to 1,000. So that's exactly how I operate, and I am very, I don't lose, and I tend to make money on all of these things, and I tend to do really solidly, right? I buy really low, and then when I feel like it's at a risk point, I sell. I don't need to make that extra $100 per booster box or $200 or $300. There's always going to be a new opportunity like that. There's so many good opportunities. Why are you trying to make $300 or $400 more on this Moon Prion that could go back to $600 at any point? Like that would be my instinct on something like this, is that it could absolutely continue to moon up, or that now, if you're getting involved in this, I would much rather get involved in the raw market on it and try to grade it. So at least you have some safety, where you're making an extra $300-400 on that grading, so that if it falls back, you're still net like that. Like if you have one of these, sell it and buy some raws. Like that would be my move in this situation, particularly how easy it seems to grade. So those are some thoughts on it. At the end of the day, though, no matter how many of these if there is enough demand and it continue to, growth demand, like the price will continue to go up. Now, Pokemon could also just print these to, Oblivion or whatever, do whatever they wanted. And any of these things, there's not unlimited demand for any Pokemon card. So,
right. We can't predict demand, obviously, but I would have sold at 500, 600, 700, 800. It defies logic. And I shout out Dan, Catch 'em All Collectibles with his print estimators. I mean, there could be upwards of 50, 100K of these total printed. I think there's over 2,000 PSA 10s already. And for it to be still staying at like $1,200 is just like insane to me. But I guess I don't have to understand it. Like demand, can't predict it. It's clearly got the demand, and I don't have to understand it, but it really just doesn't make any sense. It's
show off card, it's that Monarch card for people who are into this gen a lot with their friends. Like, this is the guy right now. And so, yeah, it's something. It's absolutely something. And I think that, it's very encouraging from a love of the hobby and joy of a hobby that this card is this expensive. But then there's also that anxiety and worry of like, I hope people don't get hurt. I hope people aren't spending outside their means. It's sort of that usual dual thing that happens in my head. Very excited that people love this, that people are enjoying modern Pokemon. I'm also a little concerned that the people buying this are not the ones who have been in the hobby that long, are not the ones who know all the different options that they could buy, and are not the most educated. So, and I would very much guess that most of the people buying this are not people who are super deep in the hobby at these prices, I would guess. And even that in and of itself is a little bit concerning. So,
and I also just want to say shout out to Pokemon for making a card that is not serialized, that is so rare, that is still chaseable, that breaches that $1,000 mark, that they can reprint and deal with that problem if they need to. Their hands aren't tied with being, well, it's numbered 1 through 69. I guess we can't print anymore. We kind of screwed that one up, didn't we, guys? Well, I guess those boxes are heading to the moon now. Pokemon can look at that and say, huh, they really like that Evolving Skies, huh? Maybe we should give them a little bit more. All right, John, let's go turn the printers on. Let's give them a little more Evolving Skies. So shout out to Pokemon for knowing how to make the combination of something being rare and desirable and still somewhat obtainable and somewhat regularly, because like you can go to your Target and probably buy Evolving Skies. Everyone can do so. So it's accessible to every person, but at the same time it's not, because who's going to open 1,000 packs to get it? So like Jake, to your point earlier, don't open those booster boxes. Like, as one man who's opened thousands of boosters of Evolving Skies to another, it is all pain that is waiting for you. It is nothing but cries.
Listen, it's for the experience, and I like to open everything.
Okay, don't say I didn't warn you though, buddy.
But for me, I need to afford it. So, and part of affording it is losing every single dollar. Expecting to lose every single dollar. I never open. I always open expecting to like lose. If I open a $240 booster box, I'm expecting to lose $240.
That's fair. Well, going in it with that mentality, you are always safe, always. But let's just say there are other modern sets you can open and have fun with. Evolving Skies is not a fun set. I've said many times, now that we're talking about Myrmbrion, Evolving Skies, I just have to say, I hate that set. I think it's a garbage set, and I think it's full of, it just does the worst things to people in the hobby. Yeah. And I think it's an outlier in Sword and Shield, and it is not a good example of what I like about Sword and Shield. Sure, it's the #1 set everyone's going to remember and talk about. It's probably the only thing anyone's going to talk about in Sword and Shield. But Brilliant Star was one of the best sets that they've ever made. In modern Pokemon, that is, at least. Lost Origin as an opening experience was so much better for like everyone, not just like Kanto lovers or not Charizard lovers. Literally everyone, I think, can find something in like Lost Origin. Evolving Skies is just pure trash of an experience. Unless you, and let's be real, even if you hit an alternate art, you're still not happy. You're still crying because you could have, for the price of the box, bought 4 or 5 alternate arts. For what you get, because what you hit the Espeon alternate, the bakery Espeon, and it's like $50. Cool, the booster box is $250. You could have 5 of those. Tell me the last Evolving Skies booster box you opened 5 alternate arts in.
Yeah, yeah, and to wrap the sort of discussion and saying to Ancient Mew here, like, so everyone is in a different situation, which is why it's like impossible to answer these types of things. But okay, so the first question I would ask you, right, Ancient Mew, is like, are you a collector of this card? Right? Is this something that is this the card you want to own more than any other card for $1,200? Because if the answer is yes, and I'm just selling it right now, just because I think it's going to come down and I'm going to rebuy it, that changes my answer. I still probably would, to be completely honest, but it changes it. And that's why for every person, it's so different. And I don't think it is for Ancient Mew, this, but like I'm saying it to illustrate it for other people. It's like, just because we're saying this, like if this is your #1 chase card, like, and you can afford to have it and keep it, and it was my last copy, I would have a very different, just like I'm holding some booster boxes to open, I would have a very different answer for myself, if that makes sense.
Sell that, Ancient Mew. Sell it, baby. I know Ancient Mew personally as a person, like through the internet, we know each other, and I can tell him comfortably, Sell that, baby. You
Fair
should have sold that 2 weeks ago.
Send it,
Okay,
send
well,
it,
I'm
rush
sorry.
it,
I'm sorry.
rush it to
Yes,
PSA,
express.
fuck it.
Yeah,
Rush it, express and sell. That's I'm a
ancient
dirty
Mew.
scalper
You
flipper,
told us
though,
you
so.
were you told us you're on your anniversary dinner. Sell a couple of those Moonbreons. Get the wife a nice gift for the anniversary.
Do you know what kind of a vacation you could go on for 2 Moonbreons and PSA 10? Okay, you even express it to PSA for like $50-$100, whatever it costs you to express it. Do you know what kind of a vacation you can get for 2 Moonbreons? I'm not saying spend it on a vacation. That's very irresponsible. I'm just saying the types of things, like it's 2 pieces of cardboard, and if you pulled it yourself, dude, you got lottery luck right there. You got to cash in on that. You can't just let the lottery ticket sit in your sock drawer until like you go on a cruise. I don't know what happens and you forget about the lottery ticket. You got to use it.
All
Not
right.
financial advice.
Changing gears here. RNG this. What is your guys' dream Pokemon set? I'd love to see a new Team Rocket set that features Shatter Pokemon like Giovanni, Shadow, Mewtwo. Yeah, that's a great suggestion right there.
I think that's a good suggestion, and I think like a Team Rocket set for Gen 2, just because I'm like a Gen 2, or like a WotC person. I don't know. That'd be pretty sweet. Like a Neo Rocket.
We'll get it. I think we're gonna get that dark set sooner rather than later. They do like to give it to us once in a while. They're very withholding on it sometimes, but
I need a dark set. I'm gonna agree. I just want a dark, and that's how I've been feeling for a while. Like I've been, like I love like those plasma, like what they did with the plasma stuff. I love EX Team Rocket Returns. Like these sets are and it's gonna do so well. Like that. Like the Japanese exclusive, like case, like the case that came out with those cards. I mean, those are incredibly expensive, but those are gorgeous. Like we need more Team Rocket, more dark, and we're overdue for sure.
More dark, more light as well. Like obviously they did some in Neo Destiny with dark and light, but like dark, light, I don't know. That seems easy, but that would just be really cool to bring that kind of like mechanic or feature back. I think that's an easy answer for me.
Yeah.
I think we're going to get here's a hot take. I think we're going to get crystal Pokemon coming back in this next generation. I think they're going to give us the crystal typing coming back, whether it be the crystal Onyx for the first time, or we may get a return of crystal Pokemon like we had in Skyridge. And, so I think that there are potentials because of the whole Terra thing and how they crystallize the Pokemon. And like, I think we're going to see Shattered Ice as a type of holo that's coming back, or like that cracked ice kind of thing going across the whole card. I can see that happening. And before I get rattled or anything, I don't know anyone on the inside. I don't know anyone who's like telling me this. So if I'm right, then that's just my crystal ball. You all know I'm usually right about my predictions, though.
Yeah,
so
you're already on his
being right all the time.
You're already on his list for talking.
We were definitely like a thing over the weekend was like, yeah, anytime anyone said anything was like, I'm gonna call Rattle up.
Like I saw someone drop their card on the ground and they picked it up. I looked at I said, you better not wipe that off. I said, you better not wipe that off. That dirt's on there for good now. And then I got you guys. Don't worry. Ain't no one altering cards on my watch. Not on my watch. That kid went away. He cried. That kid cried. He went back to his parents crying, but I made sure he didn't wipe the dirt off. I had him put it in the sleeve. Said that card's good. That's staying how it is.
Somebody's saying in the chat the EX hollow borders. I think that would be awesome. Beautiful cards. The cracked ice, awesome too. I don't know what the terraforms are going to be like with the weird chandelier things on their heads. I'm interested to see what's going on there.
Doesn't look super. With the VMAX Pokemon.
I won't
have like clouds over their heads.
Yeah, I won't talk bad about it. I'll wait to see it before I start just crapping on a new.
The return of the EX Pokemon is so exciting though. Like even though it is XY level, I've slowly been getting like more into the XY era like lately, more so than I have in other times. So like I'm really enjoying the thought of going back to that era, because like I was just getting back into the hobby as XY was rotating out kind of. I was more in it in Sun and Moon, like the end of Sun and Moon. And so I would get things in collection boxes from X and Y and I'd open them. And I didn't have as much of a connection to it because I never had booster boxes of it. Like for me to have a connection to a set, I really need to have booster boxes of it, because like that's how I always open booster boxes. Like, and this is before me being a pack breaker. I always open booster boxes of the modern sets when they come out. I just enjoy enjoy opening modern booster boxes, even if it's just for myself. So like it's cool the thought process going back to that EX, you know. So I'm excited for the next era. I think it'll be nice to see what they do, and I'm ready for some new things. I know you like rainbows. I know you're saying I was dogging on them, but I'm gonna say I hope they get rid of rainbows in this next era because they've been around 2 generations, and you know.
For me, rainbows are at that rarity level. They're my least favorite ones, but I still like them. So for me, it's not so much that I think that they're better than gold stars or alt arts or like the other things that are at the same rarity level. It's just for the price point, like I like them, and I think that they get dogged on pretty hard because it's sort of the moment for doing that right now. And I think that give it 5-10 years and people haven't seen a rainbow rare in a while and they can't open them from packs, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, they've certainly, I see a scenario where people, become connected to them, and there's a nostalgia with the difficulty to pull, and mainly the Sun and Moon ones, because I think that for the Sun and Moon era, I think that was, I only go after the Sun and Moon ones right now, in large part because those sets were printed less and it's just much, much harder to find them. But
such a good era. Sun and Moon, such an underappreciated
and
era.
I don't think things need to be the best or awful. And I think too often people get into that sort of thinking. And it's like, this set is the worst set ever. It's like, no, like it's actually like a really solid, normal set, so I don't know that it's, and so as a speculator or whatever, I'm looking for that sort of irrationality, and I've taken advantage of that for years. Everyone hated the black and white era, and everyone hated X and Y, even X and Y for a little bit, and everyone hated certainly like the level X Diamond and Pearl era. Now we've seen what they're doing. So now again, it's different because the rarity level, but relative rarity of like Sun and Moon compared to like this generation, so we'll see. Only time will tell.
It goes both ways with, like we were talking earlier about it kind of being a self-fulfilling kind of momentum train that doesn't stop with the tops on Charizard. I think it's going the other way with Rainbow Rares, and it's almost gone too far. And now it's become cool to crap on. I actually kind of agree. I don't love Rainbow Rares, but I think I agree with you that it's gone too far. And I think it's smart to look for those types of opportunities when kind of the narrative shifts in that complete opposite direction of the bubble mania, going the opposite direction.
There's nothing that I hate. When everyone hates on the prisms or the break cards or all these types of things, I think they're all cool parts of Pokemon. Now, do I like them as much as some of these other things? But that tends to be my engagement with these things. I often, when people hate something or when people love something, I'm a lot more in the middle. So when everyone is like, this is the best set of all time, I'm like, weird reaction. Or when everyone is like, this is the worst thing of all time, I also think very weird reaction, because I have a very long-term, there's going to be so many cards to collect. So like that, whatever. It's that tends to be my mindset.
My problem in this hobby is there's too many cool things. There are way too many cool things. And the more I learn about it and the more I find, the worse off I am. So in some ways that's a problem, and in other ways it's not. It's a good thing. So for example, I just bought a collection of old Pokemon stuff at the event, in Denver, and it had a bunch of Marvel cards in it. And I'm not the Marvel guy, not usually. That's not my go-to, but I like superheroes. I love Marvel, so why not, right? And so I had a lot of fun digging through, learning a new game, and researching that stuff, and then sorting through it and processing it. So it's all about just finding new things. You find new things all the time in the hobby, and that's what's beautiful about it,
So, I'm seeing these kind of interesting debates that I just showed on the screen. Is the VMAX Moonbryon way rarer than other VMAX? It's these types of conversations, and that they've seen, one person sharing, I've seen 5,000-10,000 packs or something, and in that it was twice as rare as the Ray. Very interesting. I remember having discussions like that with people about earlier sets and people, and I get a wide range of opinions. So I'm not going to weigh in on that. I just want to showcase that people are having these debates and opinions. People will keep having these sort of debates and opinions to try to explain sort of, why something is more expensive than the other, or whatever. It's interesting.
Okay, quick calculation. I've opened 4,000 packs and 4,152 packs of Evolving Skies. I've sold approximately 20 cases of Evolving Skies in the
Yeah,
last year and a half since it's been out or whatever.
sure.
And I've opened 3 Moonbryons. And so that is about what you would somewhat expect from that. I've only opened 1 Duraludon VMAX in all 4,000 of that. The
Yeah.
Duraludon VMAX, the other I pulled like 4 of the Rayquazas, so that's about exactly what you would expect, 1 out of 1,000 or so. The VMAXs, not the Vs.
And statistically, because you're pulling so few of each, it's extremely easy for like you to pull none of one and 4 or 5 of the other. So for people to understand that, that if you pulled 300, if you opened 50,000 boxes or whatever, and you pulled 300 of one and 100 of another, then you're starting to get into sample sizes where it would be a little bit stranger. But even that isn't necessarily, conclusive. But when we're talking about 4, 1, 3, 2,
4,000 packs to it's impossible to like extrapolate that, like with the pull rates being low.
Don't use that as any sort of information to like extrapolate. Oh, the Duraludon's even more rare than the Moonbryon. It's 3 times more rare because the sample size is very small at 4,000 packs. But if that's small, like imagine how many packs you need to get a real sample. So like, yeah, it's just one of those things that you can have the debate endless times. It's a luck thing. That's why I said, Ancient Mew, you need to sell that thing. If you pulled 2 of them in the last 2 weeks, like I've been opening the stuff like wildfire since it's come out, and I can remember each time I opened it. So very much so.
We can only speculate as to like the print numbers. It's fun to talk about, though. It is just fun to speculate, fun to talk about. This is going up. It is an entertaining to talk about.
Speaking of speculating and talking about, can I ask you as a personal question?
Sure.
How many Charizard UPCs have you pre-ordered?
4. I got 2 from Target, 2 from Pokemon Center directly. I think I'm just going to stick at 4. I don't know.
Sorry, Mertz.
I was just going to say, I know that you've talked a lot and been pretty vocal about you're thinking it's going to stick at 150 for quite. You could be right. Nobody knows anything. It does anecdotally seem like there's quite a bit of them out there, just with the amount of. I've been able to pre-order some. It seems like just a lot of people in Discords are able to grab a few here and there. So we'll see. But I think I'm just going to stick with 4. And
before you answer, Jake, Mertz, what if it goes down to like $100? Would you buy more? If it goes to 20 under? Like people are trying to fire sell all their pre-orders and stuff.
I probably would buy a couple more at 100.
How many more?
Maybe just 1 or 2. I just don't have a ton of capital either. So maybe I wouldn't buy any. Like if I had unlimited capital and I was just a big investor in Pokemon, I would buy a few more. I think it's a good product. Awesome playmat inside, bunch of packs, really cool cards.
Okay, what about you, Jake? I'm curious now. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Mertz, but yeah. Do you even have any pre-order? Because I want to say before you even answer, Jake, I bet you don't even have them pre-ordered yet, do you?
Sorry, ask me again.
The UPC, the Charizard UPC. How many have you pre-ordered?
None.
I knew it. You're waiting. Are you planning to buy some, or are you just kind of like
it's probably just going to be a complete skip for me, like because of the hype and my how am I supposed to decide how much this should be worth, or now if I have distributor connections and I'm getting them, that's a whole different thing. I would get as many as I could, but as a secondary market buyer of this product, it's just a complete pass.
Okay, but if you have distributor connections, though, what would you do? Would you buy and sell them at market, or would you buy and hold them because you felt because they're going under?
It would all depend on people's reaction to it, the conversations I was hearing. So I think that oftentimes I like selling some, and then I like selling some at various points where I feel, less or more strongly about the direction an item is going. I'm trying to think of examples. Evolving Skies is a perfect example of where I got them at basically distributor pricing after a reprint, basically. I think I paid $87 a box because I got it with a bonus box. There just happened to be a bonus box when they were $95 on eBay.
You bought them in January, right? Of last year? Or not January of last year. January
it was after the second reprint. There was like a big second reprinter.
Yeah, it was this January, December. It was when the market dipped to $100 on them. That was about the lowest I could find them. So that makes sense. You got them about 95, maybe a little lower if you bought a bunch of them. Because I also, in the Discord at that time, I was getting laughed out of the Discord because I was screaming at the top of my lungs that Hidden Fates and Evolving Skies were both extremely undervalued. People were like, oh, old card shop, Evolving Skies will never get to 200 a box. I was saying by Christmas, it might get to 200. I remember I had a wager going with someone in the Discord.
I mean, you can go back. I made a modern video as soon as that set came out, and it was like 120 to 140. And people were, you know, I was asking me like, what should I do? And I said, I have no idea. Like this booster box could be anywhere between $90 to $200, depending on how much they print. Now, the fact that it's up to 240 now, I'm very surprised.
I think it's 250, dude. I think it's gone just a little bit up since the convention.
I'm very surprised. Just like you, I just do not see this set as so much better than other sets. And I just and it's just this narrative that just I feel like keeps, and I'm just surprised, frankly, I'm surprised there are enough new people in this hobby. It feels like a new thing that continue to stonk on something. And I think it's just that people are like, they look online and what's the best set to buy, and it's Evolving Skies, and you've got a bunch of channels and 50,000, 100,000 subscribers saying, buy this one, this is the best one, and it's a good investment. And people are like, okay, I'll buy the best one that's a good investment, and it's only 250. That's not that much, because they don't know that it's like ultra mono.
Only 250, like
compared to team up
that's a steal.
But compared to team up that's 1,000, or there's lots of other Pokemon boxes that are 5,000 or 10. So you have to come at it from a mind of someone who doesn't know what these items are.
The mind of someone who has no idea.
When I got into the hobby, I remember being brand new and I had no idea about anything. And so I came onto YouTube. I read Google articles. I read articles that were just like clickbait, basically telling me like the 10 best sets to buy. And it was all just nonsense. Like I went back and looked at those articles. They're just literal nonsense. It's just BS. Like it makes no sense. And I literally made my first like purchases off of these articles because what the hell did I know? I have no idea. You know what I mean? And the three of us like doing a 3-4 hour, like, am I going to listen to that when I get back in? Or like, they don't know if they should trust us or that we have any knowledge just because we say we do, right?
They should never trust me. That's first of all, that's your number one mistake. Don't trust me.
Guy. So I think that understanding the majority of the hobby is coming within that mindset. The majority of buyers are in that sort of mindset, have that sort of experience. And then it's just that thing. It just kind of goes and goes and goes. And unless Pokemon prints more or those people run out, might just keep going up. Now, I'm very pleased that I made, thousands of dollars just picking them up at 95, in a few months. Like that's a win. And if it goes to 500, phenomenal for those people. Like,
I wish I bought more. I could only get 1 or 2 cases. And so I picked up at that point. Of course. That was before the second reprint happened. Because when the second reprint happened, it only went to like 140.
And then you just move on to the next thing. There's so many good opportunities. There are so many things that I'm buying and selling and trading and making good margins on. I'm buying Star Wars cards here, and then I'm selling them for 3-4 times the next week to the right person who wants that serialized. Like there's tons of opportunity, and it doesn't ever make sense to focus on like people focus way too much on these booster boxes sometimes, and oh, should have held it for another $50 or $100. It's like, no, dude, like it's great. You did phenomenal. Like I'm way more focused on not losing, constantly gaining, and then constantly putting that money into another good opportunity than I am trying to squeeze every dollar out of this Evolving Skies.
It's possible to time the market and sell at the top. I mean, taking a 2x, 3x profit, like there's no shame in that. That's a great return.
Particularly when you have a theory, right, about why it's more likely closer to the top than not, right? And that's where, I mean, yes, if you think something's going to, if you think this box in the next couple of years is going to run to 600, 700, 800, or in the next year is going to run to 500, you shouldn't sell. Like if you have this idea of like, if you double up your money, you should take profit. No, like these things can be worth any amount. So like, there are cards that I've made 30 times my money that I'm still holding because I think they could go higher. right? Because of my analysis of what that is. A modern booster box that they could reprint at any moment that has already moved up. Like the fact that this like Vivid Voltage got to 200-ish, right? 220. Did it ever get higher than that?
It got like to
220.
220, 240.
That's what
I
I
sold at 220. I sold a ton of boxes at 220.
And that was during the mania before a reprint. The fact that Evolving Skies, after reprints during a downtime recession in the hobby, has managed the same sort of feat is amazing. Now, what happened to Vivid Voltage? All it did was it took one reprint, right? Now, could they reprint enough of Evolving Skies? Is enough of it already eaten? And is it so much more of a popular set that it's much more foolproof? Now, I think what also a big part of what happened to Vivid Voltage is that alt arts came out, and then
I was about to say that's the big thing that we're not ready. Is the alternate arts came out, and then nobody cared about the Rainbow Rare anymore.
And what have I said 1,000 times? And what did Mert say? Like that can always happen again. What do you think happened to Hidden Fates? So much of it got open. Like Hidden Fates completely stopped growing. Right? It came down quite a bit. Reprint, and now it's real stagnant. And the reason. Not because people didn't freaking love it, not because it's not amazing or there's endless amounts. I mean,
I pump it every day, man. I love Hidden Fates.
So,
it has nothing to do with me not pumping it. And every other YouTuber.
Everyone here already knows what we're talking about, and the people who need to hear that aren't going to hear it. So,
I do have an interesting thought, though. Speaking of the Evolving Skies and as evolutions, I saw down in the chat. This is really far into the chat, but someone asked a question. They said, "Would you rather?" It's a "Would you rather" question. You know the alternate art evolution boxes, the Jolteon, Flareon, Vaporeon? Those are sitting about $80, $85, you know, it's $75, $80 a piece right now. So you can get 3 for like $180 to $200 shipped. Okay. The gentleman in the chat asked, would you rather have one of each of those, a set of those, or a set of Hidden Fates tins for a little bit less? The Hidden Fates tins are about $50 a pop, so like $150 instead of like $180 for the set. So would you rather the Hidden Fates tins or the alternate art evolution pack art set? What would you prefer there?
Neither. I'm not the target audience for either of those, but if I had to pick one, I would pick the evolutions. Like if I'm trying to stonk out and just like pick one, evolutions can't go wrong there. But I have no interest in either of those things.
In the short run, maybe the Evolving Skies, and I bet on them like continuing to grow. In the long run, Hidden Fates.
Well, to be clear, those aren't Evolving Skies. They are mixed. There's only 2 Evolving Skies packs in those boxes, and the rest are like a mixture of garbage packs.
Oh, then 100% the Hidden Fates 10s. Never mind. I changed my answer.
It's the promos.
Battle Styles, Fusion
Strike. Are you calling Battle Styles garbage? Because
there's no Battle Styles in that box. If there's Battle Styles, I wouldn't call it garbage. I like Battle Styles.
Is there Darkness Ablaze in there?
Fusion Strike, Chilling Rain. There's like a Vivid Voltage in there. And maybe a Darkness Ablaze, I think, and then like an Evolving Skies. It's garbage, man. Besides the Evolving Skies, you don't want those packs.
I hate Darkness Ablaze.
You couldn't give that stuff away at the con. You had that like
I traded for some because I really like the guy who traded with me. I just think he's a great guy, and I was like happy to give him that card, and it just was like fine. And I got like decent enough value on the back, so it was fine. But it's like I was as we were doing the deal, I was telling him I was like, I am like the worst person in the hobby to be trading Darkness Ablaze to. I don't know if anyone dislikes this set more than me.
And you still traded for like 50 packs.
Yeah. I mean, I think we priced them at 175 each or something like that. Blisters and I got full value on the card that I was trading for. So and I got almost half cash. So
I think it's a good deal. $1.75 a pack.
Yeah.
Listen, I traded for a ton of junk slabs. I got
really
so many junk slabs.
Yeah, I really like the guy, so I wanted to do it for him. I would not if I didn't really like him. I probably wouldn't have done that deal.
He was nice. I actually watched you do the deal. The guy was pretty nice. And so after he walked away and you left all the packs on the table, I figured he had to have been the nicest guy in the hobby to be dropping off some Vivid Voltage and Darkness Ablaze on the table to you. I'm just trolling. Yeah, it was, man, what a good event. Honestly, everyone who couldn't go, please, if you ever can, I understand life happens. You can't go to all the events. Try to get out to some event, even if it's just like a local event, because you will absolutely love it. You'll enjoy yourself. If you've made it this long into, 2 hours and 38 minutes into a live Pokemon chat about the market, whatever these guys are talking about. You will love a Pokemon event if you've never had the chance to go. So just make sure you do that because it's such a good experience.
Incredible. I couldn't agree more. Anyone else telling themselves maybe it's a good time to take a break on new sets as we get into Scarlet and Violet? I personally took a break on Lost Origins. I don't know if I'm going to get any Silver Tempest. No idea. I personally am kind of waiting for Scarlet and Violet. After I bought my Charizard UPCs, that's kind of the last modern thing that I want to own, and I'm skipping Silver Tempest personally.
What you're saying the booty shot of the Lugia? It's not something that you
Thick
need.
Lugia. I actually like that. I actually like that card. I like that there's like a fisherman there. It gives Shining Gyarados vibes. It's actually like a sick card, but
yeah.
Yeah.
But what about the Skuntank altar? The Skuntank is really going to be the chase, right?
That's a lot of boxes, loot box.
36 boxes of Unbroken Bonds searching for Reshizard. Yikes.
Based on our conversation before.
That's
Sorry,
brutal.
on the last one, like for me, like I'm patient. I'm definitely gonna open all these sets eventually and collect the cards I want at least from them eventually. Maybe even do complete sets eventually. But it's not something I'm like rushing into. I don't feel a rush to. It's weird. I don't know if I'm alone in this, but I don't feel a rush to open what everyone is opening. It's not like I guess it's because I like vintage and middle generations and all sorts and so many other card hobbies so much that I never feel like a shortage of like cool things to collect or fun things to be involved in. It's always very much like I'll get around to like everything eventually. That type of feeling.
It's just fun to open monitor. Like I'll buy a pack or two at Target. Just fun to open a pack or two, whatever. Opened a bunch of Collecticon. Just it's a fun experience. But yeah.
Do you find yourself opening it regularly, Mertz? Like when you go to the store, do you grab a couple packs every time you go to Target or have to be a special day?
Yeah, I enjoy. Probably I buy like maybe a pack every couple weeks, couple packs here at Target. If I see it hanging on the shelf, if it's convenient, it's just fun. I know I'm going to lose money. I know I'm going to pull a non-holo rare and a dumpy, like, whatever the pull is. And I don't care. It's just a fun experience. I fill up my binder with cool arts and pull out the Komiya arts and call it a day. It's just a fun experience.
Dance in the chat.
I'm not the right person to ask about opening modern or opening things because I do it for other people. Yeah. And like I'm so jaded. Like I'm gonna be opening this in the next couple of days.
Ooh, that's nice.
And like I'll be probably opening this in the next couple of days on my channel. So like the amount of just random mid-gen and like old packs I just open, I'm completely jaded. So I'm probably not the person to ask about like, oh, do I get excited about opening things and stuff? Like I just open a lot. I love it still though. I do still love
fun.
It.
Yeah.
I'm gonna enjoy this. Don't get me wrong. I'm gonna enjoy this every bit as much as
Between the ropes, can you guys quickly address your thoughts on Magic 30th?
I'll let Josh take this away. He's the Magic guy in the chat.
Here's some strong opinions, Josh. What do
you got?
It is a literal sickening thing to see. Well, actually, it's fine. It's fine. Like whatever. If Wizards of the Coast,
sickening.
This is how I feel. It's so sickening that I've removed my feelings from it, and I'm just like a screw it situation. Let's do it live. If this is how they want to roll it, let's go. If they wanted me to pay $1,000 for 4 packs, no, baby, no. I'm going to go buy revised packs. Hell no. I'm going to go buy some real vintage packs for $250 a pack. If for the same amount of money, like you want me to go buy your modern product, that's just literal trash proxy. And you have the cojones. You have you try to tell me this is not going to be tournament legal as if people aren't going to use it in their decks. No, get out of here. Go home, Wizards of the Coast. You're drunk. Oh, what's this? Their earnings reports are getting slaughtered right now. Oh, what's this? Hasbro stock is down. Oh, it's down farther than it's ever been after your big earnings in 2020 and 2021, 2022. You know what? Screw you, Wizards of the Coast. You have no idea what the community wants. You haven't for years, and I don't spend money on your garbage modern product. You see this baby right here, that box right there, that Urza's box? that was probably the last time you knew what you were doing. That was in the 90s, for God's sake. But now you're literally just ruining your game. People are leaving Magic to play other games that were just considered pump and dump schemes. More people probably have fun playing MetaZoo than they play Magic these days. I'm not even being facetious when I say that. More people probably enjoy Yu-Gi-Oh than Magic these days. Okay, that's it. Sorry, that's all. I don't think that it's a good idea for Wizards to do what they're doing, but they can do whatever the hell they want. And I hope they get crushed for it. I hope they get hammered for it because they deserve it. That's my take. That's my take on Wizards of the Coast doing $1,000 packs.
But it's fine.
But it's fine. But
it's fine.
Do whatever. The market's going to be fine.
It's sickening, but it's fine.
Yeah.
I like that as a saying. Yeah. That's actually a great saying for a lot of how many of us feel about things in the hobby. Yeah, that behavior is sickening, but it's fine. What
it's fine.
I'm just so
disgusting and gross, but it's fine.
Obviously I care, but at the same time I don't care. Like, that's the point that I'm at with Wizards of the Coast, where it's like such a company that I loved for so long. Like, I buy old Wizards of the Coast boxes because of the wrapping, because it says Wizards of the Coast on it, because they had such a moment, like they had such a impact on my childhood. And like what they're doing now is literally sickening.
I think that, I mean, we've seen like Pokemon do like the gold Pikachu. We saw Yu-Gi-Oh do the platinum,
the blue eyes,
eyes,
like silver blue eyes release.
Yeah, I mean, these companies do these sort of large singular cash grabby. If we want to call them cash grab, if we want to call them like there's just a market for this high end stuff, people are willing to pay. It's their property, and they're sort of taking that and then making a large sum of money on it. It is exactly what it is. And I think that whether the way they're doing this versus that is worse, I think that's a very interesting conversation. The fact that they're reprinting so much of it, and the fact that they're adding a gambling element into it versus those other things where you just get the exact thing. I think all of that's very interesting to debate. Is the price point ludicrous, or what is the pull rate, and then what does it do to people? Like, is it gonna, does it, impact the value or the appreciation of like these cards that they said they would never reprint? Is this actually reprinting? Is this are these proxies? Are they printing real, fake? What is this? I think all of that stuff's super interesting as someone who is a big appreciator of Magic and an enjoyer of Magic, but is not like, I didn't like, my childhood is not like, I definitely played Magic and had Magic cards when I was a kid, but it's not like, I don't have like a fire for Magic. But I think the whole debate is interesting, and I certainly I respect and I enjoy hearing people who have that fire for Magic give their takes on it.
Yeah, I think that something that you alluded to, and then I watched Scott Pratt had a video like talking about it a little bit, is just for $1,000 you can go buy literal like beta unlimited heavy play like cards and have the actual things rather than some proxy reprint without the Magic back. And I don't know, I just don't understand it, but doesn't sound like a lot of Magic collectors understand it or like it either. So it's sickening, but it's fine. So
I mean, clearly, like, I love all this stuff, right? And like Magic for me is one of the things that I'm most passionate about when talking about collectibles and things, like, because even though Pokemon was first and Pokemon is what I do the most of, Magic was the longest in the middle that was like purely mine, I guess. I don't know. So like I'm very passionate about it, and I know I'm not the only one. And like it's the same thing with like Wizards of the Coast. Like I watch the company very closely because like I really value what they bring to society as a game company, and having their hands in so many things that I loved growing up and continue to love. It means a lot to me. But that being said, man, I hope they get crushed and I hope they get really punished for doing what they're doing to the community. And like, look, Pokemon's doing a cash grab for like the UPCs. Like they do it every year. They do a cash grab for the holiday set. They make a premium product, but you don't hear, I mean, people get mad, but you don't have literally people like leaving the hobby. Like Magic people, this is the most united I've ever seen Magic people be on anything, is on disliking this new $1,000 brand new product. Like, we all stand together on it. Like, we may not all agree at the EDH table on what commander is okay to bring to the table or not. Like, what's tournament legal versus not, if you use a proxy versus whatever. These are all things that are, we all agree that we hate these $1,000 packs. So there is something to be said for that, I think.
I mean, I think like an interesting counter or something that someone could say that I don't believe necessarily, but some sort of idea of like, well, how is it hurting the hobby? Why doesn't everyone just ignore it? Like, why do these cards existing and why do them doing this hurt the rest of what they're doing? Like, okay, so it's just a cash grab and it's annoying because it's like, blah, blah, blah. But like, then just don't buy it. Or if you don't have the money, just don't buy it. Why does its existence bother people so much? I think it's an interesting question. I think I know the answer to some extent, but and I don't agree with the premise of my question, but I think it, fully, but I think it, and trust me, as someone who loves these things, it's like, because it's offensive, like that they're doing it. And it's like, how do we trust a company? This is how I would answer it. Like, I want to trust that the company cares about us and cares about the collectors, players, obviously more than anything in Magic. And I don't want them doing things that don't feel like that. I want to feel like safe and homey here, and then, as Rudy would maybe say in response to that, like, it's a capitalistic business. Like, they don't care about you. This is just further proof, they're trying to make money. They're trying to run a business. That's their focus. And it's a little bit of that bursting of that bubble, or something like that. I don't know.
You guys, both of you guys, know what the reserve list is? Or maybe the chat, do you know of the term reserve list that gets thrown around in Magic communities a lot?
Yeah.
Just not to like beat it with a dead horse or like go too much into the subject or anything, but a lot of what the problem is that the Pokemon community that I think that isn't really it's hard to equate because Pokemon doesn't have something like it, but it's the reserve list is something that Magic created in the early 90s when their reprints of the original sets were actually destroying the collector's value of some of their cards that they were printing. And so when they made new versions of something, they put out this list that they labeled as the reserve list, and they said there were certain cards they would never reprint for X, Y, or Z reasons. And they held up this list. And this is something that is not existent in other like hobbies that I know of. But until just recently, when this was announced, it never was broken. They never reprinted anything on the reserve list. When they added something to the list, essentially it was there for good. And there was 100% confidence. They could reprint a set. They could reprint all these other cards in a set, but the reserve list cards never got reprinted. There was 100% rock hard confidence. There are always people on the internet, naysayers, who would say, oh, they'll reprint the reserve list. They have no reason to uphold this promise that they've said multiple times on official, in their editorials and their Wizards magazines, in literal official channels. They've said many times, we will never reprint reserve lists. With this set, it is the first time in history that they have literally almost every single rare in the set, like not every single rare, but like most of the rares in the set are reserve lists. They've literally reprinted every card, Black Lotus in it. So it just was a rug pull. That's how it was a little bit like, to put it into Pokemon. It's hard to put it into Pokemon people's perspectives, like what happened to the Magic community, because you're like, oh, if they reprinted base set, it would be great. They did it already. It's evolutions. It didn't tank base set, because that's not the thing. Like, it's different because like there was never an established agreement, a contract that was signed basically that said we would never do this, and then was broken, that contract. And so, yeah, there's a little bit of like, okay, they're proxies. You're not supposed to use them in tournaments. They're not tournament legal cards. But like, though they said that with every other, like the tournament decks they released in the early 2000s, the collector's edition that released, which is the exact same thing, the reprint of Alpha or Beta that they re-released as a full set. They sold that for $50, $49.99, I believe. So $50 out the door for the whole set. Now they're selling this for $1,000 for 4 booster packs. That's neither here nor there. That's another story. But the whole thing is the rug pull with the reserve list. That's, I think, what the biggest issue in the Magic community is right now, is the rug pull. And so it's like, there's no confidence at all. And so it's been, when you have a shake of confidence, that's the hardest thing to ever get back, because like your reputation matters, you know?
Well said.
Anything to add, Mirth, on that?
No, nothing. I think Josh summed it up really well.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm sorry I'm so passionate about that particular aspect,
No.
but
Dude,
it's just,
we love
yeah.
Interesting to hear about it. I just learned a ton.
Yeah.
I won't be buying any of it. Not a single. I'm not touching it with a 10.
You won't, will you?
Will you?
Well, no, but
Well,
some
what if
people are
you said,
speculating.
and I'm gonna go buy it?
Yeah, well, but I mean, I can say that, and I would tell you, I would say something like, "Oh, I think it's the dumbest thing in the world. I'm gonna buy 10 of them and flip it to all the dummies." Like, I would say it if that was the case, but I just don't think that the Magic dummies are gonna be like that.
I don't buy and flip things that I don't like. For me, now that's almost like that is a privilege. I hate that word, but privileged position, because I'm not a business or whatever, and et cetera, but like, yeah, like if I was offended by a product, I would never flip. There's so many great options, to resell, et cetera, but
exactly.
Whereas I try to cut myself off from that, like that. So like, if I feel that way about something, I try not to let it too much influence me, because if I can make money, and I still will. Like, I feel like graded cards are the biggest, dumbest I think that people are still way overpaying for graded cards. But did I just send 300 cards to PSA to get graded over the course of the last 3 days? Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah. There are levels. I mean, one is sort of within the normal course of business. Another is like, this is something I love, and I really am offended by this very specific release that does not impact my overall business, and I can skip. So,
Right.
yeah, it's interesting. How much are they making of it? Is there a print?
They haven't said yet. It's a limited print run. It is a limited amount, though. So you are correct to ask that. It's not print to oblivion, print to the ground. There's not going to be enough to go around, allegedly.
Yeah, I'm curious sort of what that looks like and what that means for it. Obviously, when Pokemon did the Gold Pikachu and Yu-Gi-Oh did the Platinum Blue Eyes, they told exactly how many there were. People knew exactly what it was going to be, which helped obviously fuel sort of sales. So I think if it was a surprisingly low print run, I would be. There's a very good chance that it'll be very expensive and that it will do very well. But it's interesting to hear, Josh, that you feel. I'm interested to know sort of, you don't have to answer now, but like how small you think that print run needs to be at $1,000, given, and that's something you wouldn't know, but someone who maybe has some degree of kind of a pulse on that market, how much can they sell at 1,000? What do you think? Like if you were to have to throw a guess, and then in order for it to get to 2,000, 3,000, how little would they need to print? Do you think?
That's the real question, because like they could make as much as they want, and it could just sit at 1,000, and it won't sell out if they do too much of it, and that would be the wrong decision if they really wanted to have a chance at selling out. So I would think that maybe like original print run of beta, I think there's only like a 10,000 rares 1,000 rares that exist of beta, or no, alpha. One of those two is very low.
Alpha.
And so like for
it's
them
1,100 for alpha.
Roughly like 1,000. So like for them to print 10,000 booster packs, it feels like that would probably make enough that they could sell it and make a lot of money and still come close to selling out, so that it doesn't feel like they have a bunch of product that's just. And then it would give enough people, and it would still give that FOMO, because like one of 10,000, and then they would have to numbered one of 100 maybe. I don't know how they would do the numbered or serialized cards within that print run. I do think, like you said, I think that they probably will end up like releasing those print run numbers eventually, like how much they made of that particular product. They don't do that with other products, but I do feel like with that one, it behooves them to say, hey, we made 5,000, we made 10,000, we made X, Y, or Z. So then people know that there's that number, because if they just don't say.
I would be very surprised if they didn't say before the sale, because if they don't tell us, if they don't tell people how much there are before the sale, that's going to dramatically hurt sales.
I mean, who would invest $1,000 in 4 packs and not knowing the print? They could print 100,000 of them. Like that'd be crazy. That'd be a crazy purchase without knowing the print runs.
Yeah.
My answer though would be they're going to print as much as they can without tanking the market. That would be my thought process.
Well, for sure.
They're going to milk it for everything they can, and I think that they have data.
I think that it would be this, in my view, this is the type of thing that you need to do one print run. You need to promise one print run, and you need to tell people exactly how much there is. This is not something like if you play games with like we could reprint this if it does really well, you're gonna see it's gonna really negatively impact sales. So I don't know what that number is, whether it's 1,000 or 10,000 or even more. I'd be surprised if it was a lot more than 10,000. 20,000. You know, I just don't know how big Magic is at $1,000 about. You know, that's a lot to me. But
it is a lot. Like with what you can do with $1,000.
Yeah,
it's a lot.
Interesting to watch.
10,000? Do I think 10,000? Yeah, I mean, I would guess 10,000 definitely could, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's smaller than that. You know, I just don't know.
It's very polarizing in the Magic community. Actually, it's not even polarizing because nobody has any sort of thoughts. Like nobody's arguing that it's a great thing. Nobody's saying like, "Oh, I'm going to go out and buy 1 million of these." There are some people I've heard. Some people said, "Oh, that thing's going to sell out. It's going to go to 2,000." But like my thought process is like, at $2,000, what Magic player is going to pay that when they can get the real thing? Because there's like real products you can buy for that amount of money that are like more.
Was Evolutions real?
Well, yeah, but like I'm just
saying that it's interesting it's Wizards of the Coast making it, you know, and does that make it real? Or is it a proxy? You know, I mean, and this is
but it's still cheap. Evolutions is cheap compared to this because Evolutions is $20 a pack. This is $250 a pack.
Grand on those PSA 10s or more, right? You know, I don't know. I just think that reprints in general, rather than fakes, because I think it's more of a reprint. And people talk about proxies a little bit with this, and fine, you know, in terms of maybe not being playable or you're not able. I don't really know exactly what the rules are.
They're different card backs, so they're technically not playable in tournaments or anything.
So maybe the proxy would come, you know, etc. But like the idea of reprints is something I've talked about quite a bit on this channel, that in most hobbies, reprints, unless it's a very limited reprint, reprints tend to be worthless. So you have examples in the comic book market, you have examples in the sports card market where you can have a $1 or $20 or $40 comic book be the same art as a $2.5 million comic book, you know, similar in sort of sports with rookies. Now, it'll be interesting to see if they can create value by doing this sort of limited reprint of an already limited thing, right? So unlike in Pokemon, which was like a massive reprint of something that already has massively been printed and somehow still had good value, which is the miracle of Evolutions.
Yeah,
right?
It's beautiful. We love it. We love it and we hate it, but we talk about it.
It goes to what we talked about before too, of just like, it's amazing how Pokemon is just so huge that like it can do things like that and you know, and like the fact that box got to $1,000 is just amazing. Like that's like for Pokemon, they should be like opening the champagne and just be like,
they probably were, honestly.
Yeah, and just be like, we have like the best IP, the strongest IP that's ever been created. This is like a marvel. The fact that this has done this, right? You know, but for something like this to manage, because that's $1,000, right, for that booster box, the same as these packs, right? I mean, that's whoa, right? So, you know, for them to be able to sell 5,000 or 10,000 of these would be interesting to see if they can, and be interesting to see if they do sell out very quickly. You know, how much is that secondary market? How deep is that secondary market? Certainly for the gold Pikachu, for the platinum Yu-Gi-Oh, those sold out. Took a little bit of while to see huge increases, but you know, I mean, the gold Pikachu, I want to say is worth 8,000 now. I don't know.
I'm not sure how much worse. Dan was saying in the chat that it wasn't known the print run before.
Close to 10 grand.
That it was made to order.
Pretty close to it.
Is that true, Dan? I don't remember that. I remember because I was here when they did it, and I remember a certain amount. You sure?
I think he's right. I remember hearing something similar, that it was a made to order.
Interesting.
During like the holiday season. But yeah,
the Yu-Gi-Oh definitely had a number, which was recent.
Blue
I
eyes.
think it's really cool when companies do that kind of stuff, but the fact that they did it with this, for example, with like, there's a whole nother thing with Magic. The fact that it's people playing with these cards. There's a subset of people who actually use those old like vintage cards, and they don't use the modern cards, and they play. It's like with it's like they call it old school, but it's literally the format's called old school. And they use like Power 9, Dual Lands, like all these cards are getting reprinted. So like there's a subset of people who probably do need cards to play with and are already paying a lot for those cards and would probably like to have the proxies they could play with and not worry about damaging. But like for the same level of money, like there's a gentleman on Magic on Facebook, one of the Facebook groups, who made like a spreadsheet, calculated how much money it would cost to pull the whole set, the whole beta set from these new booster packs from the new like Magic the Gathering 30th anniversary versus how much it would cost to just buy a whole collector's edition set sealed on the open market. And so in order to pull, I think all of the cards, I think it was either like 16,000 or 26,000. There was a 6 in there somewhere, but it was an egregious amount of money you would have to spend on these modern booster packs that are reprinting in order to get a full set of those older cards. And so the way they priced it was allegedly on par with like equal pricing to the old stuff. And I don't know where the thought process was behind that. Maybe they could make more money charging more, or maybe they thought it would maybe not tank that old market, because if they made the market price not worth it to buy these newer cards, then all the people who are holding the older cards wouldn't dump them in panic because all these new ones for super cheap came on the market. Because a lot of what Magic does is it's about playability. A lot of what Pokemon, once again, doesn't realize about Magic. I, as a Magic player, I think it's part of my struggles with slabs in Pokemon, part of my bias against why I see in Pokemon slabs and I just want to scoff at it, is because the Magic player in me just wants nothing to do with a card in plastic. I'm going to break that bad boy out and put it in my deck and play with it. That's the point of a card to a Magic player. So like most Magic players aren't looking at these things like gradable investments. They're looking at it as like a piece to their deck that they can sit down and play with on Sunday night with their best friends as they do their weekly EDH game. So like it is a little bit different because of the playability aspect, and it's a whole different ballpark when cards are deriving value, not based on the cool art, the rarity, whatever, but literally how much people need it for their deck, like usability, like straight up usability. That's utility. That's something that I think is not, we don't talk about as Pokemon because we never talk about playing it, and it's mostly collectors.
I mean, Chris and I used to talk about it all the time on our old podcast, you know, and I think part of why I'm so interested to see how this happened, how this goes, is because I'm interested to see what the depth of the Magic market is like for something like this. I think the vintage sort of, you know, alpha beta market is very interesting because there are a number of people who buy that stuff raw to put into decks. They just love having the original stuff in decks. Now, are there quite a few people who are buying the graded stuff and are buying it just as a collector? Yeah, that stuff is definitely the most heavily collected stuff for sure.
For sure. Like in that market, alpha and beta is collectible,
right.
but it's also, there's like, it's called Alpha 40. Yeah. Anyone whoever wants to dive into it and see what it's like, there's a Facebook group called Alpha 40, and it is a literal, they play with alpha and beta and unlimited cards. That is it.
Sure.
Like I'm in that group just to hunt down those old cards and try to see if they're ever trying to sell. But those dudes, more often than not, they buy slabs. They show it off on the live stream in the Facebook. They crack the slabs live like it's a badge. Like they're getting these graded cards and they're cracking them like, oh yeah, this is what we do. It's pretty funny. It's
I just don't I don't understand this entire, you know, the cracking out $1,200, you know, $2,000 cards to put it in the deck. Like it just doesn't make sense to me. Like I guess it doesn't have to make sense to me, but I don't understand that. You know, if the goal is to play the game and you just want to have fun playing the card game, like what does it matter to bring in the actual cards from you? Why can't you just
the ultimate pimping out? It's an interesting combination of collect, like, yeah, these guys, like I've had conversations with some and they don't understand. This is not there's plenty of Magic people who I think understand their own psychology in this moment, but I've come across some who like deny that they're pimping out their decks for the show offiness, and it's like, no, that's what's happening. It's very similar. Do you see that? It's just different in your community versus our community, but it's a similar sort of dopamine rush or dopamine hit that comes from like actually having the cards and then having it be all alpha or mostly alpha or alpha.
It absolutely is, because like if the goal is just to play the game for the mechanics and the fun with your friends, why don't you just get out the Xerox and just like make some copies and cut it out with I don't understand it. I'm sure there's something that I'm missing, but
No,
you guys were kids once, though. You two were both kids once, right? And okay, when you're growing up and you're playing cards with your local neighborhood friends, you're playing Pokemon with your neighborhood kids, whatever. You're not going to the big tournament. You haven't optimized and net decked your deck. You just have your cards. Like when someone comes to the table and plays with a deck full of like fake Charizards, fake proxies, and you're using your real cards, it's not like you can look at them in the eye and play them. You're looking at them and they're beating you down with their fake cards. It's not fun anymore. So it's not like you can just use proxies.
Yeah.
It's like you can't just use fake cards and have fun. If everyone's using real cards, it is still a limiting factor. Yeah, there's monetary things that prevent. There's always the kid who had all the cards and the biggest binder and the coolest stuff. But like that kid usually sucked at the game too because he was given everything. So you could usually stomp that kid regardless of all his Charizards. So
if I was a serious Magic player, I'd have 3 different things. First of all, I'm a collector, so I would want my like favorite cards in very high graded slabs. Then I would want a very nice deck that I didn't actually play with, but that I owned, because that would just feel cool to me. And then maybe once in a while, like on a really special occasion, I would play like in my double matte, sleeves in a very safe way. I would like play them, and I'd want them to be like near mint LP basically. And then I would have like proxies that I would, for the really expensive stuff that I like played more frequently because I like love the game. That's probably what I would do. And I totally get all of it. Like, and like if you have the money or you like opened these cards yourself and you just happen to have them all these years, or you got them super cheap and it's not about the money to you, you just like have these sick cards. Like I totally get why it would be amazingly, like I love Magic and I love the history and the people.
I think it's just
me too. Passion. Like I like, as someone who's like a huge lover of cards and TCGs, like I just love the whole Magic thing and the people who are super deep into it. But I'm also gonna like call them out, might be the wrong word, but like, yeah, if you're coming and you're saying like I'm not pimping out my deck, it's like, no, that's exactly what you're doing.
Yeah,
they definitely do. Yeah, don't let them get it twisted. They pimp out their deck.
True players, we don't care about. It's like, what are you talking? It's the same.
They're just different communities. Like they probably like I'm having these questions and I don't understand this playability and cracking out $1,600 slabs like play with. They probably come over and watch this stream and like look at this idiot who like is collecting something and he doesn't even play. Like I don't even know how to play the card game and I'm spending thousands of dollars, not thousands, but you know what I'm saying. So I get it as kind of like these cards are meant to be played with. I don't play with them at all. That's a little weird too. So I mean, I could point the finger at myself too.
I've said it multiple times that when the apocalypse happens and everyone is out of like electricity and there's cannibalism and there's craziness in the world, me and my good friends are going to sit down. We're going to crack that Urza's Saga box right there. We're going to have a draft with no electricity and we're going to have a grand old time in the apocalypse. So that thing has value. I don't care what anyone says. The world can go to shit. That never stops having value. Wizards of the Coast can reprint the reserve list all they want. They can demolish all of the confidence I have and everybody else has in any of their company. It's not going to change the beauty that they put out in the 90s that was Urza's Saga. So just got to show that up a little bit more there. But I have 2 of them, so I can technically sell one eventually.
So I do want to start to wrap up tonight, if that's cool with you guys. Why don't we take like one more question and then we'll start to wrap up from there. Does that sound good? And we'll get some rest.
Good. I actually have an insane day of work tomorrow and I'm up here. So
this is, it's late at night, but it's not too bad for one of these streams. So
like I would rather be dead exhausted and just like have a fun time talking about cards with people for 3-4 hours. Like,
And
go
I
for
have
it.
no opinion because I'm on the West Coast, so I apologize
Oh,
for you guys. I'm
Same.
wide awake right now, so
You're in good shape.
yeah.
Okay.
I did see
So-
that Justin Durr in the chat is the guy who traded you the Vivid Voltage and in Darkness Ablaze
Yeah,
pack. So
yes, sir.
Nice.
Yeah, he's a great dude. That was definitely a friends trade because I didn't want those packs. But I'll sell them eventually. It'll take forever, but they'll be sold eventually.
I liked your question, Justin. The evolutions and the hidden fates, and I didn't answer it. I didn't tell you what my answer would be, but I'm
go for
evolution boxes all day, by the way.
All right, so let's do. So this looks like basically the last question of today. Okay, Thomas asked, any thoughts on collecting versus minimalism? I love collecting, but I'm finding I have a lot of stuff. So let's end it on this guy.
yeah. What I would say there is like you just I don't know. That's for each person has their different goals. In like old card shop Josh was talking about earlier, like their Pokemon is easy to create different sets and like segment out like full art trainers, and different versus series vending. You can pick an artist, you can pick a set, you can pick the hollows from a set. I think that there are ways to collect and really focus it down and like synthesize it into something that is meaningful for you. And that's just what I personally would do and if I ever felt like I was getting too much stuff, I wouldn't like that either. Like just stuff piling. I would rather have 15 cards that were meaningful to me and maybe a little bit more expensive than $1,000 cards. That's just how I think. So I don't know if that's minimalism. Collecting, I think everybody does it differently, but that's what I would say.
I am not much of a collector, to be 100% frank. I used to think that I was a lot more of a collector than I was, and I certainly have the collector gene in me. Like I started with Pogs and Beanie Babies and sports cards, and worked my way into Pokemon, and I collected those penny things that you smush at wherever you go. When you put a quarter and a penny together and they smush it, I would get those, and I literally everything. So the gene is in me. But nowadays, I totally get the minimalism thing because like the more I look at my stuff, the less I realize that after I have it, that I really care about it. So like it's about the chase for me, and it's about the enjoyment of learning about it, of diving in, of really interacting with the item, and it's about like the learning experience surrounding it. So like as far as Pokemon's concerned, when I first got back into the hobby, I wanted everything. I just wanted to take everything, and I was very easily overwhelmed. But these days, to be 100% honest, and it's not just because I'm just a dirty flipper and I'm an inventory and everything's inventory and it's easier for tax purposes if it's that way. But calling something a collection versus inventory, it's a lot less expensive. And so like I get my kicks interacting with people. I've said it 1,000 times. Like when someone makes an order on my TCG player account and I can see that they're like a Umbreon collector because they ordered 6 different Umbreons from different Umbreons that I have throughout my store. And it's like, or if a Magic player puts a bunch of blue cards in their cart, and I'm like, oh, you're making a counterspell deck. I know exactly what you're doing there. I enjoy interacting with the hobby as that middle person because I can see what you're doing and I appreciate what you're doing and I'm happy to be a part of it. I may not ever say that. It might not be like a thank you, a handwritten, like, thanks for doing what you're doing. Thanks. But legit, that's what I like. That's what I get my kicks out of. So, like, I personally don't need to own things. I don't need to have things, collectibles. Maybe that's because I already have my grails in the hobby. Like my grail is that $10,000 magic box I keep chilling up there above my head. Once I got that, I need nothing else. And so like, I'm not going to sell that. I'm taking that to the apocalypse with me, but everything else is for sale. And so like, after maybe you have one thing that you want, maybe for some people that's like it, maybe that's what it is for me, but I don't think that's what it is. I think it's just that I interact with the hobby in that particular way, that I don't need to have all this stuff. I just like interacting with it. Like I love talking to you guys. Like I like my podcast that I do. I just enjoy the hobby itself. So I guess sorry to dodge the question. But I don't collect. I really don't collect very much. Like I have a lot of stuff, like a lot of cool stuff, sure, and I'm happy to have it. But it's really just I'm just kind of middlemaning it to a certain extent, and that's
think,
kind of where I'm
yeah,
at.
I completely agree with that. I think that something that I learned at Collecticon in Denver, this past weekend was, I don't have the biggest, coolest collection. I've got a small collection. It's not worth a ton, but I still found like a lot of joy in just coming, having a binder in my backpack and just walking around with people, meeting people, interacting. So I completely agree. And that I don't think that you need to have a massive collection of PSA 10s and gold stars and just sick cards that are worth, $30,000 to really interact with this hobby and have people want to interact with you. And because I certainly don't. And I think that that's a great call out, that you can still collect and you can buy $1 to $2 cards and you can still be highly engaged in the hobby in a meaningful way. I think so.
I mean, there's so many ways you can enjoy yourself in life and find meaning in life. So, I mean, if we get deep into this philosophical conversation, there is no correct answer. There's no like, you need to be this type of person or you need to be that type of person. I think it's a very personal thing you're checking in with yourself. Do you feel satisfied with yourself, generally speaking? Do you feel satisfied with your materialism or the way that you engage with physical things? Does that bring value to your life? Do you enjoy the hunt of physical things, or does it feel like you're using physical things to kind of fill up psychological voids and holes that can't be filled up with physical things? Those types of things. I think you can get a lot of pleasure and engage with physical materialistic things in a way that is fairly meaningful and meaningful to you and others in the hobby. And then I think there are ways that you can do it that cause negativity or toxicity for yourself and others. So yeah, I don't think it's every day you can make different decisions. So I think there can be times where it feels like, okay, well, I would like less things, or I would like, or I find myself, we've talked about addiction obviously on this channel, which is a fairly extreme version of like I am collecting in a way that is very unhealthy for me, in a way that's causing a lot of stress and anxiety and negativity. And I think that I think when you have a really strong, if we want to call it a collector's gene, you love the hunt, you love amassing, you love completion, you're a completionist and you're a perfectionist, and you have those types of character traits, you just should be more aware of like the possibility that you fall into that sort of addiction side of the hobby. But also like you'll probably get the most pleasure and enjoyment out of like doing it if you can figure out a balance. So that's what I would say. I would not shame yourself for whatever personality or whatever your interest is. I also think that at times people can sort of overreact of like you might have some slight addiction tendencies, but it doesn't mean you need to like quit the hobby or quit every single thing or collect nothing. It might just mean like, as Mert said, like maybe I pare down and I just kind of like, I set a new goal. I think setting goals can be helpful, like being intentional. So I'm not just like on eBay buying anything, everything all the time. And I'm not aware of even how much money I'm spending, having a little bit more of like, I'm intentional about what I'm going after, about how much I want to pay for it, about why I want to pay for that. And maybe I'm selling all the time to do some of that. And at the end of the day, I view this as like something enjoyable to do with my time. I do not view this as like some super serious, important thing. I am not doing something important, like, and deep and profound. Like, the profound elements, if we want to talk about it that way, to me are the relationships and the joy. And so for me, like the profoundness of me creating a museum or creating a really cool collection would be the joy that everyone would get in coming to it, or the joy in people hanging out and spending time and having those feelings and experiencing shot. Like that would be it. It's not like completing the holes in my collection or like the deal or the high I get off of getting a deal. Right. And so I keep those things. I'm aware of those things. And so I don't lose myself in the dopamine rush, because that will not be long-term satisfying. What will be long-term satisfying is doing something that is meaningful to a lot of people and has some some depth to it. So, end of rant there. But
I think somebody needs to clip that. That was really well said. Really well said there. Just perspective on what we're doing and how we find joy. And I just think that was great.
And it was a fun stream too. I appreciate you having me on. I hope I didn't offend anyone out there. Some of the takes got a little spicy tonight, and that is not the intention. It just comes out naturally. A little bit of little heat comes out sometimes once in a while. I can't help it.
I thought it was great myself, and very much appreciate both of you guys for taking the time as always. And we'll have many more discussions and hangouts in the future. I'm sure the three of us and so many people watching. So
absolutely,
we Florida will be the next Collecticon.
Yes. So excited. I can't wait.
Collecticon owes us some sort of money or free sort of event. I mean, I feel like we're bringing like hundreds of people to these things now.
I know. We should get a little cut.
So a bunch of us are going to go to that, I think. So start looking at that, start preparing for that. Hopefully you guys will both be there. Hopefully, and oh no, you will not be, Mertz, right? Because of wedding, right?
Right. Getting married shortly thereafter. Gonna be
not a bad thing to miss it for. Congratulations, man. That's so cool.
Thank you.
Congratulations, and and I'm sure we'll see you again at a different one at some time in the future.
You won't see me in Dallas because my wedding is on that weekend, so maybe a different one, but worthwhile to miss it. But I really appreciate you having me on. Like, if you would have told me a week ago today that I would be sitting on like the Pokenomics channel having a 3-hour conversation with Old Card Shop and Jake, like, it's outrageous. Like, so I really appreciate you having me on. I was 1 week ago today, I was a lurker who was nervous about meeting people and are they going to accept me into the group and talk to me and like now I'm here. So I appreciate everybody being so welcoming you, Jake and Josh as well. It's honestly insane to me. It's just really awesome.
Dude, you're all the same. Like, everyone's just wants people. Yeah, people just. Yeah, I can't say it enough that like we're fine. Like, anyone can come like hang out and talk with us, and we all love this stuff. You know, it's not.
If anything, I feel bad that he had to be held here for 3 hours as we were like long-winded. You know, he's probably like looking back like, oh man, I didn't know I was getting signed up for. Like, we do these 3-hour podcasts all the time. It's like, yeah, whatever. I'm already in the doghouse for that. Mertz, his fiance, wife to be, she doesn't know quite yet, but maybe after this she'll know better. But we apologize for keeping you longer.
I am in the doghouse a little bit for being gone all weekend and now spending 3 hours on a podcast.
Welcome to Pokemon YouTube, baby. Welcome to Pokemon YouTube.
All right. And thank you all for hanging out in the chat with us tonight. Appreciate you all. Go support these gentlemen. Go support the Old Card Shop. He has a YouTube channel, Whatnot stream, Instagram, the whole deal. Mertz, anything you want people to follow?
I mean, you can. I have an Instagram, post sparingly. I'm thinking about starting up the channel. Don't have any videos up, but maybe shortly in the future we might do a little returns video and so forth. But yeah, just follow on Instagram. Feel free to reach out, hit me up if I'm at an event. I will walk around with you and introduce you to the people. So
we will look out for that. I have this YouTube channel, Patreon coming up, video this month. Dan, if you're listening, you're up, buddy. We're looking forward to it. I've heard it's going to be the best one ever, so no pressure. And otherwise, just thank you all for watching, subscribing, supporting all of us. It's engaging in the chat. Like, it keeps everything going. Like, all the lurkers out there, as Mertz said, like, we were lurkers. Like, it's we love that people care about this stuff and feel like we do, so thank you all for being those lurkers too. We appreciate the lurking. All right. Take care.
All right. Bye, everyone.